Awesome talk, awesome talk. We got some awesome talk today. Awesome talk, oh awesome talk. You all like the way we talk. It's awesome, awesome talk, oh awesome talk. You like the way we awesome talk. It's awesome talk, fucking awesome talk. You like the way we talk. It's fucking awesome. Woo-hoo. Yeah.
Cheers.
Hello, hello, hello.
I think
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Awesome Talk, Quarantine Edition number 33 on July 23rd, 2021. I hope everybody's doing well out there tonight. I saw Pat starts to laugh, and it started to make me fucking laugh, dude. Hope everybody's doing well out there tonight. Here we are. Here we are in the world. Welcome to the show. And, tonight we're here. We're here to talk about things going on in the world. So, that's the way it is. Sarah's here. Kristen's here. Pat is here.
Right, did you write this speech?
How can you tell? How can you tell? So, you can go ahead and talk about what you were talking about. People heard you talking about She-Ra and He-Man if you want to talk about that anymore. But I know you don't want to give anything away. I don't either. The only thing I'll say to people is that Henry Rollins as Triclops is the greatest thing ever. 100%.
I just have to say that Skeletor being played by Mark Hamill is also the greatest thing ever.
Can we address some of the shit talking about it?
The live video just does not fucking load for me at all. I assume I'm the only one that's having that problem.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, well, fuck it then, I guess.
So anyway, I just wanted to can I address something about Masters of the Universe that people are complaining about without saying anything about the show?
Yeah, go for it. What are people saying?
Here, people are saying that it's
Teela is her haircut's too butch, and it seems like she's bi, but she should really be with He-Man, and it's too woke and all this shit.
The too woke
First
comment.
of all, I don't think there was anything in there at all that made me feel like they're trying to touch on wokeness, pretty much at all. So I don't know what the fuck that complaint was about.
I don't even understand how it's really being applied. I mean, the term woke is one of those things that's so overused now. Where anytime people don't like the way something is now, it's woke. People are pissed because, people are pissed because, let's just say it depicts women in a strong way, but He-Man's always done that. So I'm not really sure what the fuck people are upset about. And He-Man has also always addressed an entire list of social issues. If you go back to the old He-Man episodes and you watch the end after the credits, they would always address things like alcoholism or sexual assault or drug abuse or
Wait, was that really also he? Because She-Ra did that, but I have no memory of.
Yeah, there's a whole joke about it where He-Man. There's a meme about it where He-Man jumps on the thing to fly away, and he's just till later, friends, or something like that. That's always been like that. Or Orko would come out and do it, or whatever. But that show always addressed those things.
Do you remember Silverhawks? How they used to have a fact about space or something at the end?
Oh man, that's awesome. I wasn't a Silverhawks fan, but I'm glad to hear that though.
Yeah, they would teach you something about physics or some shit at the end.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. But yeah, man,
all that shit back then.
The only thing I'll say, man, is I've been a huge He-Man fan my whole life. And if you haven't seen it yet, I thought it was excellent. And the story adds such an important level of depth that we've never gotten before. If you've ever been a fan of Masters of the Universe, just so much. It's so rich with storyline. So I'm happy with that.
Mike Pepe said they're bringing Silverhawks back, Pat.
I wish they wouldn't. I wish they would stop with all this shit.
I don't really know enough about Silverhawks to know.
Just leave it in the past where it was and come up with something new and let's go.
Yeah, but why though?
Stop rehashing bullshit.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I don't know if I agree with you. I don't know if I call it rehashing all the time. Sometimes it's rehashing, but sometimes it's like, dude, if something is good, just continue it forever, like Star Wars.
Okay, continue it, but they're not continuing it. They're like rewriting it and redoing the whole thing.
Sometimes that's good,
I don't
sometimes
think,
it sucks.
I don't know if I consider this a rewrite. I feel like this He-Man that just came out is meant to happen after the series end.
Yeah, I got that
The
impression
original
too, yeah.
series end. Like this is like what happens after that.
Yeah.
So it is a continuation story.
Well, that's fine, but there was no timeline back then.
Well, yeah,
What
but
could
there's
happen
more
after?
He-Man
Like you
than
could just make up any
But
point
those
in
shows
time and be
aren't
like,
the
oh,
only
it's
thing.
after the show.
Those shows that you're talking about is not all of He-Man. Like they have a comic series. There's that show, and then there was another show that came out later that nobody knows anything about. And then like there's a lot of He-Man lore. So I don't know exactly what they're picking and choosing to keep as some sort of He-Man canon and what they've sort of thrown away. Like you said, we were talking about Skeletor is originally He-Man's father or his uncle, but like I don't know if they
Step
intend
uncle.
for that. I don't know if they intend for that to be still a thing or not.
Like in Silverhawks, there was no timeline of anything. It was just you're trying to fight this guy somewhere.
You know,
I
in
don't know,
a way
I-
that
that-
type of shit was good in the 80s and 90s because you didn't have to worry about continuity.
Yeah, there was no story to it.
There was no continuity at all in anything.
It was just action and maybe a moral here and there, and that's it. It was like a
But now
action-packed Aesop's fable.
I'm kind of liking the continuity, though. I'm kind of into the continuity. Like, I gotta say, the Masters of the Universe having a rich story in it, and still preserving the character. Dude, they rolled out every single Masters of the Universe vehicle that you remember, and it was just perfectly done. And they just did such a good job, and the story was so good. But I don't know. Can you put a story to Silverhawks? You could put a story to Thundercats.
Barely. They're just trying to fight some guy, and that was about it. Like there was no real story to it.
It wasn't
went to
different.
Earth, and that was it.
It was the
Okay, great.
same story as Masters of the Universe. It was a guy with a sword.
Yeah, exactly.
And he
There
fought
was
a
no
dude.
real meat to it. So what are you
Right.
continuing here?
I want meat on it now because I want meat on it now. I don't want it to be weak anymore.
Kristen, what were your cartoons like when you were in the cartoon watching childhood age?
Mostly like the early 90s, like Rugrats and like Rocco's Modern Life,
I
Invader
love
Zim.
Rocco.
Oh my God. The reboot they did of Rocco's Modern Life was really, really good.
It was
Really
so
good.
good. I
It was
really
so
thought
good.
that it was going to be kind of stupid. And like the second it started, I was like, wow, they figured out a way to make this work.
They did. And it was really nice to see. And they did an Invader Zim one too, which was like
It was
hilarious.
It was so good. That was the best
Yeah.
episode of Invader Zim I've ever seen.
I know. And I watched it like 4 times. And what else? Like Hey Arnold and
I've
Cat
never
Dog.
seen that show. I've never seen Hey Arnold.
Hey Arnold was a show I'm convinced that was like not for children because they dealt with some like heavy issues that like looking back because like they put it all on like Hulu so you can watch all the old episodes of like Hey Arnold and stuff, and like some of it's like there's like abuse, like child abuse, neglect, like some of it's like
No wonder
Like,
kids
I
are
was like,
depressed nowadays.
wow.
Yeah, no shit.
Well, they don't make those shows. I noticed this, like, they don't really make cartoons or like TV shows like that anymore where there's like a group of kids and they're like kind of like the losers or like the loners or anything
Okay.
like that. And then like they're like, ooh, fun.
Watch anime.
you-
They got all the human emotions in anime.
Oh, I love anime.
They
but-
go into shit that's so deep that adults would be like, "Holy shit! Why are they going over this right now?"
Yeah, that's like a
Oh, yeah.
Hamlet soliloquy level of human emotions. Yeah.
Sonnets.
Yeah.
But like for kids, like I don't know what kids like Paw Patrol or like I don't know. Hannah
But that's the
Montana.
thing. Do you think you'd know it if there were cartoons right now that did that? Because I feel like we feel like we should know it, but there's so much shit to choose from now, and everything is so niche that like those shows have to exist. Like, and even if they weren't, you still like. I didn't know Everybody Loves Raymond was a thing until season 9.
Really?
I had no idea that was even a show, and like Addicted to Media, and I had no idea. People were like, "Man, Everyone Loves Raymond's coming to an end." I was like, "What? What show?" I had no idea.
You know what cartoon would be great to continue? Would be Gargoyles.
Everybody
Yes.
says that. I've
I
never
was
gotten into
gonna
it.
That needs a
Yes.
fucking like that ended so shitty. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like they could have just ran with that, and they didn't.
I never got into it.
I feel like Gargoyles will come back because there's
I feel like
such
it will
a
too.
huge. Out of all the old cartoons, Gargoyles is the one that probably has the most demand to come back.
There was an actual story to it. There was like lore. There was like all sorts of shit in that show. And it was kind of gritty. It was like a darker style animation, you know?
Yep.
Oh yeah, that was a good one. If they could get the people who did Castlevania to do Gargoyles,
Oh,
perf, then I'd be in. But
It's
yeah, that
gonna
would be,
happen.
I hope so. They have a lot of. I'm telling you, that Netflix has a lot of good animation like shows.
dude, they got a lot of good everything.
Yeah.
Every time they're gonna pick up a show that got canceled somewhere, I'm immediately more interested in it, even if I didn't fucking ever watch it. I don't know. You can ask Marchie how he's watching the show. Where the fuck is he? Where the fuck is the guy? He's making fun because you said perf.
Perf. Me? I say perf all the time. Perf.
They had an episode about gun violence on Gargoyles. Mike Pepe said they have an episode about gun violence on Gargoyles. Gargoyles was a Disney show. They won't sell it to Netflix.
Yeah, I was gonna say that it's gonna be Disney. So like, Disney redid DuckTales, which is awesome, and David Tennant as Scrooge McDuck. Can we just take a moment to really acknowledge how that's another one of the greatest casting
that's
choices
amazing.
in
Oh my
modern
gosh.
animation history. I mean, he might as well fucking be Scrooge McDuck, for God's sake. But anyway, if they're gonna redo DuckTales, I still believe they're gonna
I'll be
redo
right back.
Gargoyles. They're gonna fucking redo Gargoyles. I swear this is gonna happen. This
I
is
wonder if-
definitely
Um,
gonna happen.
Pretty sure DuckTales is still going on, though.
No,
They redid it.
So basically what happened is the show ended, the new show, ended, and the finale is basically a movie, and that's the end. But yeah, it's over. The new one. But dude, like, so I haven't seen any of the last season of it, which is the last season of the show, but like the season before it, where they bring back the boy's mother, like, dude, there's just so much fill-in information, and it's so fucking good. Like, this whole time, like, decades of being like, what happened to their mom? Like, it's all filled in.
Ooh, I remember watching DuckTales too. That was a good one. And what was another one? The Rescue Chipmunks.
The Rescue Rangers.
The Rescue Rangers. Yeah.
Oh, they're bringing
They sh-
back Chippendale.
Oh,
See?
yes.
Feel like they're just working up to Gargoyles, man.
Oh, definitely. I feel like Disney's just gonna have to do it because it's gonna make money. They have so much money. It's like nuts.
Gargoyles fans are like really into Gargoyles. Like, they
Mhm.
will absolutely have a fan base ready to go.
Oof, I'll be on that. I remember that was a really good show. I used to sneak watch it. My mom was like, "You can't watch this," and I was like, "Oh well."
There's
my grandma-
demons in it.
Yeah, definitely. All that stuff, even like Power Rangers too. I wasn't
I've
allowed
never
to watch.
watched-
I watched
Wait, you weren't allowed to watch Power Rangers? Why?
stuff because it was just like violent. But I had like my grandma. She just like whenever I'd stay at her house, which was always, I would just put on whatever, and she didn't understand English, so she was like, "All right, well, have fun watching your cartoons." Power Rangers was really good. I mean, it was fun to watch, but like looking back, I remember like watching a couple old, like old episodes on like YouTube, and then like the Power Rangers movie came out. And I was like, wow, this is a really nonsense show. Like, there's just like random teenagers running around. They have all these weird superpowers. No one seems to notice. And then like there's all these evil space people that just like pop up out of nowhere. I just
If
like
you notice, like that was the least violent kids show.
right, yeah, because they
when
never
punched
actually
anybody. They never hit anybody. They never shot anybody. It was like worse than G.I. Joe aim.
it was all like air kung fu. It was really strange.
Yeah.
I never, I
Exactly.
could never get into it. I feel like I was, I don't want to say I was just too old for it. I mean, my whole house is filled with toys now. How the hell, what am I too old for? I don't know. There was something about it that I just wasn't attracted to. It was the way it was filmed or something. It had that really like zoom in, zoom out kind of thing going on. It looked really cheesy and shit. And now I feel
Dude,
like I feel like I'd be more
or
into it
something.
now.
There's a movie
Yeah.
or something that you would be surprised that it was the same director. I forget which one it was,
I
but
see
it
the
was
same-
like something you would never guess that this guy did. Like
I say the same thing about the guy who's the guy who directed Lord of the Rings. What's his name?
Peter Jackson.
Yeah, he also directed Meet the Feebles.
Really?
Have you ever seen that?
I have actually.
Okay.
Oddly enough.
Yeah,
That's
same.
strange.
Yeah, the same director. Isn't that wild? Because Meet
That
the
is
Feebles, for those of you who don't know, it's like about puppets who like get AIDS and like assault each other and like hack each other up into bloody messes and shit. Like it's a nightmare with puppets.
Yeah, I saw that when
It's-
I was like in college. Like someone was like, "Let's watch this," and I was like, "All right, well, I have nothing else
Yeah.
to do." Peter Jackson,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah, same guy.
So strange.
Somebody look that up for me. Make sure I'm not making that up.
I'm about to right now.
I think I'm right. I think it's Lord of the Rings. Yeah.
Hi, Rob. Rob, I think your microphone might be off.
Is it off?
Oh, now it's on.
Yo.
He did.
So-
Hello.
Christy, did you just confirm that it was Peter Jackson?
I did. Sorry, did you hear my? Oh my God, he did.
Yeah.
Peter Jackson.
So if you want to watch a movie where puppets assault each other and get AIDS and die, Peter Jackson directed that too. Now that is an unexpected directing,
That definitely is unexpected.
which is also a good band name. Unexpected directing.
Oh, they're trying to do that now with Lord of the Rings. They're making like Amazon's making like a new Lord of the Rings.
I
TV
cannot wait for this show.
I know.
It's gonna be
Oh.
the most expensive show ever released.
And apparently, I think now Amazon has the rights to the Silmarillion, which makes me low-key upset because I feel like J.R. Tolkien would not have wanted that. But I'm
I
also
mean,
like,
the entire show is all based on that. Like it's like we already basically understood this was the case because of like the new show. It takes place during like the Second Age
Mhm.
or the first, so it's gonna handle most of that stuff, and it's gonna be awesome. And I'm really looking forward to it.
I know, me too. I was like,
I don't
need
know
to-
when
need
it's
to see
supposed
this.
to come out. Like, I don't know if I've ever heard a date for it, but I'm waiting.
I know. And the new movie too, The War of the Rohirrim.
Oh,
Oh.
my god, it's gonna be so good.
I know. Hopefully, it's not going to be like the I don't know if I'm like the only person that feels this way about the Hobbit movie series. I did not like it.
Listen, here's my problem with the Hobbit movie series, okay? The Hobbit's one of my favorite books. I've read it so many times, it's awful. And there was no need to break it one very small book, very short story. There was no need to break it up into that many fucking separate movies. And the only way you could do that is by doing exactly what they did, which is adding a whole bunch of shit that was not in the fucking book. And
Unnecessary.
all the stuff they added made the original story worse.
Yeah, it
If they
did.
had left it the original story, it would have been just as good.
Oh.
Mike Pepe just said the Hobbit movies were hot trash.
Oh, okay. Thanks. I'm not the only
And
person
here's
that
the
thought
thing
that.
about that.
He said,
The parts of
Rick,
the Hobbit movies,
that's the
the
only thing I
parts of
saw was
Hobbit
hot
movies-
trash. I pissed myself.
here's the fucked up part. The parts of the Hobbit movies that were actually what was actually in the story were good and enjoyable. All the parts where it veered off into some other fucking world that had nothing to do with the book is all the parts where it was like, this sucks.
Yeah. Oh, it was really bad. It was really disappointing to watch too. I was really looking forward to it. And then I saw it, and I was like, and even the CGI, I was like, how did like the original three, how did the original trilogy, Lord of the Rings, come out 10 years before this, and it's better CGI and effects than this movie.
You know what's crazy that you guys are talking about this right now? I was going through boxes. Like, I spent the day today unpacking shit in this house and moving stuff around, and I came across this.
Uh-huh. Dude, you should hold on to any of your
this
Lord
is
of the
literally-
Rings book sets.
Like, I haven't-
That's like,
Dude, I have not taken these out since this batch was printed in. Where's the copy?
Those books look new.
A lot of those soft cover Lord of the Rings series, especially that like the one that came out in like the 70s that you've probably seen a million times, they're worth quite a lot of money now. So yeah.
This one I think is the 8th printing. This is 1992.
oh,
This is 1992.
Those books look new, man.
No,
Yeah, they
man.
do.
These things. I mean, they're new because I read them twice and then put them back in and haven't touched them since I was probably 12 or 13. So
Yeah.
like I almost sold them at one point in time, but I'm like, why would I, dude? They're like the oldest set of books I own that were mine when I read them originally.
oh.
So
what a
like
great time.
I've had this is the 50th anniversary edition, but I've had it since I was a kid in a book club in like the end of elementary school going into middle school, when they used to have those like little book sales and shit like that.
Yeah.
But I was the biggest fan of that, and then when the movies came out, I don't know, for some reason I get weird about shit like that. Like I was a Crichton fan forever, and then when they started making Crichton films, it was like Jurassic Park was cool, but I had already read Jurassic Park, and it was strange. So I
In
find
what way?
the fact that it's not the same as the book.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like you go there and you see the theatrical. I think that's one of those first movies for me when I was a kid that I was like, that's not how I read it. That's not, like, and you're like, I know we have to you don't learn it as a kid that they have to edit and truncate stuff out so that they don't film a book, but like, I don't know, The Hobbit and
heavily
Lord of the Rings.
edited.
What's that?
Surprisingly heavily edited. It was Forrest Gump.
Oh yeah?
Really?
Yeah, there's a lot of shit in that book that they didn't show in the movie. Like a lot. It was weird.
Was it
That was the first book that I knew. That was different.
Was it heavier? Was the book heavier?
Oh,
Like,
way heavier. It was
Yeah.
crazy. Like, yeah, it was crazy.
that's like when you like I don't know if anybody in here watched Game of Thrones, but like when you read the
Yeah.
books and then you watch it, I've seen recently like artist renditions of what people really should have looked like based on
Totally
characters
different.
and all
So
that
wait,
stuff.
wait,
Oh
wait.
yeah.
Can I ask you guys
Totally
something?
different.
So clearly, a couple of you are Game of Thrones fans. I've never seen not even one episode. So,
Don't.
okay, so that's
I
my
just
question. As
couldn't
people who are
stand
real
I
fans,
just couldn't stand the level of rape. I like.
that's what my
Yes.
sister said. She was like,
It
it
was
was
just more
obscene.
rape than I could handle in one show.
It's
But
it's-
let me answer.
story.
But as fans of it, I feel like you watched it from beginning to end, regardless.
Can I go off on Game of
Oh,
Thrones
please,
real quick,
'cause-
please?
'cause I wanna know what the
watched
truth
that
is.
show religiously for 10 years, and the ending that they gave that show, literally, I was like, I will never watch this shit ever again.
There was like a
This was-
Starbucks
this-
coffee
this
cup
is
in it and shit. Like,
Trash, horrible. Like
no, not
10
even
years.
not even the scene things. Like what
Yeah.
Kristen's saying is like when you've been like a lot of people caught up, right? They heard about it, so they started watching. And like, oh, I binge watched that shit for 2 weeks. I started that shit the night it came on,
Same.
and I got it when you're waiting week for week, and the first 4 episodes are all right. They're dry, so
Mhm.
like the plot development is very slow at first, and that's what turned a lot of people off. And I really wasn't for it, but the level of uncomfortable shit in it right off the bat is the kind of stuff that brings you into it, and then you're like, all right. Personally, I enjoyed the violence that was portrayed in it for the time period it's supposed to represent, mixed with obviously the sci-fi kind of.
It's like watching Vikings. Like you love a good Viking fight.
But it's not, because for me Vikings is the same shit over and over again, like Walking Dead.
So for
I could see that.
people that I think read the book, so for both of you as readers of Game of Thrones, how were your feelings about one versus the other?
Well, first, he hasn't finished the series. Like, he hasn't finished the books yet.
Oh,
so that's,
okay.
Yeah,
okay.
so that's one. And
I thought you said that you finished it.
Oh, no, well, finished up to the point where he's been done writing. And there's, like, a bunch of stuff that they left out in the show, like Lady Braveheart.
But they also, like, when it came to the ending, he was such a pain in the ass when it came to, like, wrapping up the series that he was like, fuck it, just wrap it up then and do whatever you want with it. People were like, no, don't do that. And then they fucking did it. And I don't know. I'm on the fence with it because I was very disappointed with the ending of it. But I was also disappointed at the same time with the response from both sides, the directors and the fans. It was almost like it culminated in a bunch of people going "fuck you" to each other, and then it just ended. It's like it never existed. Like it was.
No, yeah, that's how bad the ending was. Because I watched all seasons like religiously, expecting for like I was like, I just need like something good to happen. Like, please, something good happen. And then it ended, and I was like, that was it. Okay, well.
And the whole time you don't want it to be like textbook.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't want it to be. You knew what was going to happen. Like and even the people that were off by a little bit, everybody had a piece staked in it. So the thing is, Rick, when you watch it, it's kind of like, nah, meh, and then like there's 3 or 4 things that happen where you're like, what the hell is that? And it causes you to watch it further. But it takes so long to get through what feels like a week of things happening.
Yeah.
That turn into like 8 episodes, and you're like, come on, man. You drag this shit out.
That sounds like The Walking Dead.
It's basically old-timey Walking
Dead, right.
Yeah.
Game of Thrones is a way for couples to watch softcore porn together. That's all it was.
I don't know why couples just don't watch porn together. Just watch porn if you want to watch porn. I don't understand.
I think softcore porn is way more softcore than Game of Thrones.
So what? Couples have to like ease into it together?
No. This is totally different. This is like Renaissance fair cosplay porn that people want to watch.
That's niche.
Where else did they have dong on TV besides that show?
Did you say dong?
I said dong, yeah.
Like, where else do you see so many penises flopping around? No, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Other than Pornhub.
There you go.
I mean, it was gratuitous.
You know what? That show Rome
really?
had a lot of penises in it. Do you remember when it was on HBO?
The original HBO shit?
Yeah. There was that one scene where the chick was walking around and she had all the guys with the big dicks and they all had bows on their dicks and she was picking one out as a present for somebody.
You know what's funny? This is what I find kind of funny, man. And we touched upon this a couple weeks ago.
The weird part is that bows were a thing back then.
Well, that's my point. Like what Sarah
they
said.
Were only for dicks back then.
When Sarah says like it's gratuitous and it's overboard, it's like, dude, that was like daily life. These people had fucking orgies out the rear end, and it was like public spectacle sex. It wasn't even, and it wasn't for them. It was just an uber fucking kind of patriarchal, dominant, just whatever was going to happen was whatever anybody wanted to happen at that time. There wasn't like. Talk about things like Consent's
Yeah.
not even a fucking
No, not
doesn't
even,
even
yeah, not even a
exist,
question,
you know what I
right?
mean? Like, and it's kind of like, you know, at the
But it
point
does
of time-
depend on the culture too, right? Like different.
Oh, for sure, like the Romans and the Greeks, dude. The Greeks were like, we don't want to see any of this shit, and then they came to the Romans, and the Romans were just like banging out on the dining room table, and the Greeks were like, what the fuck is all this shit? There's a couple of statements early on in Greek antiquity where philosophers are like, they're visiting the Greek philosophers that were stationed at like Syracuse in Sicily. They went up and they visited like the northern Etruscans in Rome, and they're like, what in the flying fuck am I even looking at? Like these people drink glasses of wine. Like Greeks used to water down wine because only barbarians would drink straight wine, because you're just gonna get fucking bombed and act like an asshole.
Oh, God forbid.
So the Greeks mixed the 3-to-1 water to wine. So they go to Rome, and right north of Rome where the Etruscans are, they're like taking their courtesans out, getting hammered, just smashing on the fucking table in front of people, and love making is a big deal. And women and men had some sort of equity or equality to each other, which for people in like Athens and Sparta, no. You know, more so Athens couldn't couldn't have that shit. But like, you weren't supposed to be seen like out with a woman talking and having her part of the conversation and shit. And here you go to Rome, and they're just, it's like taboo, crazy shit.
When in Rome, you know.
When in Rome, that's where that fucking shit comes from, dude.
Yeah.
So were they on to something? You know what I mean? Like, was it just better to live that way? And is that the ultimate utopia, that they get to a place where they're just like, look, man, we're not gonna like turn back time and solve aging, so let's just have the best sex and just get as fucked up as possible day in and day out.
Think about how taboo that is in society today. And even those Greeks who were uncomfortable with the sexual practices of the Romans, the Greeks were openly bisexual, if not predominantly homosexual.
Yeah.
Right. So that was a military tactic for them, was to get them to sleep with each other so they fell in love with each other. So when they went to war, they would be that much more charged.
Ugly.
When you're dying from like paper cut infection.
Emotional warfare.
But think about how taboo that is today, right? Yeah. Like, you're like, oh, that's fucking gross. Two men together. You're like, what are you talking about, dude? Like, that there wasn't categorization then. You know, like, it was sexuality.
So they didn't even put a name to it at that time. It was just life.
They knew that it was two men sleeping with two men, two women sleeping with two women, and that in between, but they were open to it. You know, human sexuality, I think, is something that for most people, like people who are in polyamorous relationships, or people that are like, I don't know what I'm into, I'm just into, you know, or people that are asexual. I think that the conversation about sexuality is something that's always intrigued me, historically speaking, because it's like everything was open, and then
it intrigues me because I don't understand how the pendulum continuously swings back and forth. It's like taboo, totally open.
Taboo, I think religion
totally
is
open.
Religion is what swings the pendulum.
For sure.
And just like in every other thing where people go from more to less or to more miserable again, it's nearly always religion that did it.
right, for sure. And it's something that I've always found intriguing with early peoples, more so the fact that, you know, at our core, I mean, we're all fucking animals. So things that are looked at as like socially unnormal for people, I think that they, at our core, we're taught what norms are and what's acceptable behavior and what is savage and what is uncivilized and all that shit. You're kind of taught, depending on where you come from, what those things are. And as a body of people, as a species, we've kind of cleaned our act up in a way because we expect ourselves to do that kind of shit. So like, things that we think are wrong or taboo, I think, are actually natural. And it's weird. It's weird how I think the human existence is. I've always felt this way. I've always felt kind of odd about the way that, you know, we don't judge other animals in the animal kingdom for what they do. We just accept that that's what they do, but we think we know what we are because we've categorized ourselves above all of the other animals in the animal kingdom.
I think a lot of what we're talking about has to do with psychology over the history.
Sure.
Yeah, because people eventually realize that, just fucking whoever you want and doing whatever you want eventually hurts your real partner or people that are actually interested in you or your friends or your family. And eventually we come to like this middle ground of like, all right, well, yeah, you can do whatever you want, but keep it to moderation so you're not fucking everybody else over in the process.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you got to think of other people eventually. It's just a selfish situation back then, if you want to really get into it.
Yep.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I find it to be an incredibly awkward discussion for people to have. I mean, I think that's one of the most awkward things people have to talk about next to their religion is sexuality, because it's usually their religion that limits their sexuality at first. But I think public stigma and public opinion plays such a high role in that kind of stuff that I find it unfortunate for the gay community.
Is it changing? Let me ask you guys something. Do you think it's getting better?
I think everything in terms of except I don't mean to jump in front of everybody here, but I think that everything in terms of acceptability, which equates now to people thinking liberalism, right? Which is kind of
Right.
fucking annoying.
It's super annoying because it's a purposeful they're defining it incorrectly on purpose to fit a narrative. It's like shifting something just a little bit this way or that way, so it fits your point of view. Yeah,
I find it odd that anybody who doesn't give a fuck what other people do is categorized as a liberal. And I think that's kind of like
Right.
that. That's what's really bothered me, is that I spent a lot of time from the end of Obama's administration through the Trump election and all that shit, writing things about people. Right, and saying, well, this politician said this and this is fucking horse shit. And obviously, when you say things like that, it turns into, oh, well, obviously fucking Marshy's a fucking liberal, and what do you teach your students in class and shit like that? And you're like, we don't teach anything, we discuss things, first of all. And secondly,
Right.
just because I don't give a fuck that somebody is a certain color, and I don't care that somebody practices a certain religion, and I think it's arrogant that you judge them based on that, or somebody wants to sleep with somebody the same sex, or 3 or 4 of the same people, whatever the fuck it is, that I don't care what they do because it affects my life nada. That's annoying to have somebody go, well, you're a political this.
Right.
You're like, dude,
Yeah.
you're not a political fucking anything, and you don't even know what that means. So
No.
don't tell me what I am.
Yeah.
That kind of shit that's annoying. That's annoying.
that's
And it's mainly
overlooking
because
a lot
people are afraid
stuff,
to
though.
talk about things that they can't explain or they don't understand. And that includes human sexuality, man. That's
I think it's a little deeper than that, though, because it's not just political or religious, it's genetic. I mean, you see jealousy in animals. You see rage brought about from jealousy throughout animal kingdom. And it's no different from us. We have the same urges and feelings as, monkeys and all this other crap.
well, no doubt.
So,
what bothers me about it though is how it's used. I feel like
what is used.
how those impulses and that sort of animal instinct is sort of guided when we're young. It's guided by the world around you. Like, like when you're a kid, the people tell you what to hate. They tell you what to be mad at. And that manifests and gets worse the older, the older
you're
that you
guided
get.
into society. You're not living
Right.
in the woods.
Right.
You have to play by society's rules, and
But-
these urges are part of society. The lack of these urges are part of society. You can't just go around humping people on the street. You can't go.
People get mad.
You know what I mean? It's just
I do know what you mean.
eventually it has to be watered down to fit the masses. Everything does.
I just pictured anybody who just signed on and they came into you going, you can't just walk down humping everybody on the street.
You can't just hump people in the street.
And
People get mad.
I just pictured Pat walking down the street like,
Yeah.
yeah, but I think that the I think the fact that we have common terms like taboo and stuff like that, the things that are
That's all religious
uncomfortable to
bullshit.
people, I think it does. I think it comes back to societal norms that are dictated by religious codification. I think that it's stuff that, unfortunately, you're right, Pat. You can't. I mean, not unfortunately. It's not unfortunate that you can't hump everything on the street, but I mean, it is. It's unfortunate that even what you do in your private life is scrutinized to a point where anything can be altered, misconstrued, whatever it may be nowadays. And there's so many people that I find that are intrigued by things that society wouldn't accept. And I'm not even talking sexuality anymore. I'm talking about like you can't have a hobby or something without somebody finding it odd or strange or
needing to comment on it negatively.
Or yeah, well, or
see,
something
that's
like
the part of everything that's blowing my mind.
Rick. Right.
What's blowing my mind lately is that people, there's a group of people who take the time to negatively go after other people.
To put them down for the things that they like.
Like I was on TikTok the other day, and if you go on TikTok Live is a crazy thing to look at.
Yes.
Because it's people you would never believe exist in the world, existing in the world. And it's an eye-opening experience. It's a healthy experience, right? So one night, I'm just scrolling, and there's a woman who identifies as a woman who has a mustache. Now, that might sound, I guess that might sound strange to people, right? Because it's uncommon. But the amount of people who took the time to say things like, you should fucking die, fuck you, you are a piece of shit, I don't believe you have a college degree, you don't deserve to live, a woman's a woman, a man's a man, why are you doing this, do you just want attention? Like, the amount of people who put that energy into that fucking, just to do that, just to take the time to do that, it just really, like, baffles me. Like, I don't know if there's anything natural or instinctual about going after somebody in that way.
No, I don't think that at all. That's that's
psychological.
That's like Napoleonic complex type shit.
That's growing up your whole life in a family unit, in a societal unit that tells you if you see this, you have to I don't even think it's a negative thing.
True.
Like, Kristen, you're the youngest one here. So tell me if what I say now sounds offensive or wrong, right?
Well, yeah,
I don't think it's wrong to look at that and think, "Oh, I don't see that very often." That's all. But beyond that, the negative part is what I don't get. You should die. A man's a man. A woman's a woman. Fuck you. What are you doing? You don't actually have a degree. You're not really smart. That's the part where it just starts to lose me. I just think that's completely fucked. I think it's okay to acknowledge that something maybe is unusual because it might be unusual.
I've asked people this, and a few of the responses that I've gotten, and one of the more serious responses that I've gotten was that people like this are exposing this kind of shit to my children. And
right.
Oh God,
now
that's
they have
so
to explain
stupid.
all this shit to their kid, and now the kid's got.
Don't have kids then. Don't have kids if you don't want to. Like, the world is these people have been here. The trans community has existed for as long as human beings.
The entire time.
And like, if you can't sit down and explain to your child what a trans person is and humanize that person, don't have fucking kids. Because then you're not fit to be a parent. And I don't know. I don't necessarily like. I don't know those people that go on the internet and like have those types of things to say. I think those are just very miserable people.
Yeah.
And I think
agreed.
that's mostly psychological. And I think that's just the reality of living in the social media age. You're just gonna have people who have fucked up things to say because they are fucked up inside. But I grew up in a really conservative, very religious household, and anything negative that you can think that someone would teach a kid about someone who's gay or someone who's trans, all those things were taught to me as I was like growing up. I never believed any of those things. From how I saw the world, those were just normal, regular people. They just want to live. But I think that there's, I don't know if those people are necessarily taught to be that way. I just think that they hate themselves, and they just don't know how to deal with that hate.
Yeah, I guess maybe it doesn't line up with their own worldviews, and I don't think people realize they're not like the center, you know.
I know, but like
they
too
don't
bad.
rule
Like
things.
that's
You can't control
too
it.
bad. Like.
Yeah.
Like these people exist, and just because you're uncomfortable with seeing something that you're not used to or something that you personally don't understand does not give that person any less of a right to exist the way that they want to exist. That just like don't like I like
what's weird to me
the,
is how they've taken it and twisted it the other way. Like they're like, oh, leftists or liberals or however they want to word it, they're dictating things to me. They're forcing me to not check the box on the form that says would rather not say when it comes to sexual orientation or gender. You know what I mean? Like I can't believe how it's been manipulated in the opposite direction like that. You know? It's like
I mean that's the nature of just like playing to your voter base, and like I think politically, at least, that's like, you know, the largest voting bloc in the country is the evangelical white vote. And so those people are very religious, and they don't, you know, they don't believe in the existence of people who are trans, and they don't, you know, they believe that homosexuality is a sin, and they don't accept that.
Yeah.
They have a right to
part
love
of all
who they-
this.
What?
There's a very ironic part to all this, is that a lot of these people that I've talked to are like the same people who are going on about safe spaces and all these kids are, you know, pussies and this and that, and they're the ones being like, I don't want to be exposed to this.
You're exactly right, dude.
Yeah.
It's the
wanting
whole
a safe
idea
Right,
of the
right.
while
Exactly.
continuously complaining about safe places.
It's the people that call other people
So weird.
snowflakes when they're the ones that are really butthurt about what's going on. and the kids that-
Everything, all the time.
I have found that the most people I know, and I hate to say this as somebody who's not a parent but teaches people, you know, and I was in public school for a long time, and I've got god kids and I'm around people. I find it incredibly hysterical in the most hypocritical way that the people that complain about an entire generation wanting participation trophies and that they want this and they want that, and they're teaching them how to be bitches, are the parents that quite literally want their kids to get acknowledgement for being subpar.
all the
They're
time.
the ones that will go to an administrator in a school and be like, my kid's not special. My kid doesn't have this. My kid doesn't need advisory or supervisory, you know, kind of help. He or she is my kid, and I've been raising them by taking pictures of on Instagram and showing how great they've been their whole life. So how could they have a learning disability? How could they have this? How could they have that? That's some entitled bullshit. Like I look at the raising of students, you know, as children, and what I've seen is not the bullshit cop out that it's a generation of entitled people, that it's actually a generation of entitled people raising those people, and that for the most part they're the ones that go to bat for them when they have no problem. You know, I've noticed it even more with the mask stuff. My kids shouldn't have to wear masks. It's ruined their childhood. Yeah, your kid doesn't even know he's wearing a mask. He comes home, forgets to take the mask off because it's just normal.
Right. It's your
they could care less
sentimental
about it.
bullshit that's attached to it. Right.
It's your like, well, how's my kid supposed to have a childhood? It's a
No.
year in life.
How's
Calm
your
it
kid
down.
supposed to have your childhood is what you're saying.
Right,
Yeah.
Right.
And that's really what it comes down to. It's that you haven't you literally have become somebody who doesn't understand the way the world is moving, and
Correct. It's painful.
is intolerable to that. And I think that so much of that is revolved around how the education system has changed the perspective of what's being taught in terms of not indoctrinating shit. In fact, we've moved away from indoctrination. People who talk about like, oh, you went to school, so you were taught how to do, you were taught how to, and it's like, no, man, you were. And now we've melded that
Right.
down, and you're angry because whatever. But the system itself has been dumbed down because those same parents don't want elevated thought process.
Because it
they
supersedes what they think a normalcy is supposed to be.
Think about
Dude,
how
I just feel
simplistic
like
those people's lives
boomers are ruining the fucking planet. Like,
And
it's just the way
can
it
I
is.
add to that for 1 second?
Like, listen, I'm not trying to be an asshole, but like mathematically and statistically here,
and of course there are exceptions.
overall, that are fucking up.
Always.
Like,
Right.
right now, like I've said for years that I hate religion. I feel like it basically holds back human progress technologically and scientifically to massive degrees that are like insanely detrimental to our evolution. But I'm starting to feel that boomers are sort of now tied with religion for the people that have the largest group holding everybody back from progress.
I mean, you're not wrong, because the math is there. They own 73% of the wealth in the country or something like that. Boomers.
Like, dude, they're
Damn.
holding
Soon
back
there's going to
everything.
be a transfer of wealth like you've never seen before. It's going to be billions and trillions of dollars that have to go somewhere when they start dying off.
It's just it's like, did you ever like have to go somewhere where the person there, like, they had something wrong with them, where like you had to like explain things in really simple terms so they understood what you were saying, and you just knew, like, if you talked about something too complex, they're not going to understand. I feel like everything is set up like that for boomers, and they're the ones in control of everything, and like they just shouldn't fucking be. Like, they run education, they're ruining it. Education feels old fucking fashioned. It's because boomers are in charge of it. Like, could you imagine what education, could you fucking imagine right now what education would be like if people in their 30s and 40s typically were the ones making decisions for colleges? Like, people would love to fucking go to places like that if they existed, but we can't because boomers are fucking holding everybody down so they can understand.
We'd be on Mars right now.
And not just billionaires.
Yeah.
Picked up the phone of a boomer that has like the font set to like 25. That's how all businesses are being run right now. Like, the font is set to like 67 so the fucking boomer in the room could read it while everybody else is being held back by decades. It's crazy. Yeah. And I just am feeling a little fucking bitter about it these days.
That's not going to last very long, though. Yeah. Unfortunately, because, I mean, most of them. How old are all the people like at Congress? Like, most of them are like in their mid to late 60s and like 70s, 80s. Like that, they're not going to last very much longer.
Can I say something fucked up about boomers for just a second here? First off, I just want to, acknowledge, of course, it's not everybody, right? Of course, you get people who are exceptions, right? But what's fucked up to me is, like, I remember when Kurt Cobain died in 1994, and the conversation was about how boomers were destroying the planet. And now it's 2021, and it's like that conversation's been totally revived. And it's like, how the fuck have these people stayed in charge of so much for so long when they ultimately don't understand how nearly anything works?
Because they set up situations where it's nearly impossible for them to be removed. There's no term limits on shit. They just buy their way into fucking everything. Their family owns everything else. And they know if they get voted out or kicked out, they have some blackmail shit. Like, dude, they're crafty motherfuckers. They might not be able to understand how to use a fucking computer, right? But they know how to fucking make sure that they solidify themselves so hard that it's nearly impossible to remove them without destroying and dismantling an entire system that brought them there in the first place.
You crafty little boomer, you crafty little boomer.
I'm serious, man. But boomers are crafty like that, right? They're like, oh, I don't know how to use the VCR, and then like If nobody's around, they'll figure out how to use a fucking VCR.
I don't think so. I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that.
No,
simple. Like,
no,
you're
I don't
telling
think it
me
is.
the
I don't think it
people
is.
Who cannot turn a PDF into a Word document are I just don't believe it. It sounds wrong.
Rick,
They
I
are.
think
They're
They're
crafty,
the ones
goddammit.
that-
They're still in charge of
they're
all
the
of our
ones that
lives.
invented-
I think they
Kristen's
just had the
question, I mean,
benefits of the 70s.
The
I think
average
they had.
age is 57 to
Like
62,
gerrymandering.
Kristen.
That's
Like-
nuts. Like
like-
that's crazy.
The
I feel like
70s.
if you can invent gerrymandering.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I
Oh,
think they. Oh, I'm sorry, Sarah. Go ahead. Ooh,
crafty and sneaky. They're the ones that invented that shit.
no, I don't know. I
No,
think that they just had-
no, stop. That's not crafty. It's so blatant. That's how ridiculous it is. It's
But they're
like-
still there. No one said, "Hey,
there's
that's
nothing
so
We
crafty
can't
about
get
it.
ahead of them.
People are like,
They
yo,
should be-
son, you're doing this. And they're
They
like,
should
no,
be
critical
retired.
race theory.
I think they just had it. I hate to say this, like I think they just had it a lot easier. Cause like think about it, like people my age were already married with like 2 kids and like had a house or owned property.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's crazy.
easy.
And like a
And
big ass
could, like,
house.
Work and go to college and pay.
Wait, can I just wait? Hold on. Let me respond to that
That's
for a
what
second.
it's like.
Boomers are only like boomers are the only generation I've ever seen that really truly wants it to be worse for their children than it was for them. Like
Yeah.
hands down, they're the only generation.
But they're
I've ever seen
brainwashed.
that like wishes that you would have to struggle more to really get it, and like I've never seen that mindset.
But
in
they're
other-
brainwashed to think that the struggle's the same. Like
Yeah, they are.
they think
They
the world
definitely
hasn't
are.
changed at all, because for them they were like, oh, I get a fucking dumb job, I buy a stupid house, I have a stupid family, I work for a few years, I go into my retirement, I get my Social Security, and for most of them that's
Everything
happening.
was stupid. I get
it was a waste of time.
I mean a dumb significant other. I have a dumb kid. I get a stupid house.
And a
I drive
stupid
dumb
yard,
car.
and a
My whole
dumbass
life's dumb.
front
And then I have
porch.
kids, and I'm like, you dumb fucks, why don't you do some dumb shit? And work your dumb ass off to fucking do this dumb shit.
And here's the deal. We've ended up where we've ended up, and I feel like it's just utterly on purpose. Like it was totally this is what trickle-down economics was. We
Oh,
trickled
because-
down
yeah,
into the
that's what I
fucking
mean.
center of the earth.
A
That's what
majority
I
of us
mean.
realize that trickle shit never trickled.
It
And then,
trickled.
like,
Oh, it
halfway through
trickled.
you're like,
It trickled. You know what? It trickled from where we were down through the earth and through the universe and back on top of the people who were above us in the first fucking place. They went
But then-
nowhere.
But Rick, I think that the biggest divide that people like, I think most of the animosity, right? Most of the animosity that I hear from, because obviously everything that you guys were just talking about, that's pretty much the perspective of people that aren't boomers. Most of the arguments I hear from boomers about the generation that is low, just I guess just below our age, and including our age, is that we realized really quickly that most of those things weren't necessary for happiness, and that we don't need to be structured in a way. I mean, granted, we're not happy. We've all wished we were making more money and had the same privilege that they had because of the
Because
ease
we're
of the
stuck in an old
economic
world
system.
we can't get out of.
But yeah, but think about this. Like you keep us in that world, right? That slow, systematic, social mobilic world where this is late stage capitalism. Like you're with the people who have realized I don't need to buy all that shit to be happy. I can do simple things and be complete. I don't need. I just want the ability to do that. And when you're doing small, minimalistic shit, and a generation above you who can afford to buy 3 boats, 5 cars, go on vacation, do all this crazy shit is going, well, work harder. And you're like, well, you don't
Constantly.
get it, man. Like,
Constantly.
we're making the same wage we were 25 fucking years ago, dude. There was no increase. There
The
is no,
world
like,
went up in
Yeah.
price.
like, the whole world went up in price. And you were smart enough when you were 40, and you're not anymore, you're 70, to put money in investments
listen.
on my ass.
Let me
I'm
ask
the one
you
that
guys,
bought all this
but let me
shit
ask
that
you
made
guys.
you fucking rich.
If there's ever been a more brilliant plan, if there's so much wealth, right, that you can invest in a population to just create generations for you that will accept less and less and less and less, and that's a great investment, right? Because at the end of the day, the people who were in charge 50 years ago, a lot of them are still in charge, just old, creaking, old pieces of shit, just running the world, man, like the Rockefellers, you know what I mean? Just like creaking through shit, like just owning everything. And like, and they're like, yeah, you know what? There's so much wealth and so few of you still because it's 50 years ago and there's a third of the people on the planet then as there is now. We're going to get you guys into a program where you get yourself a nice little house. And to you, that's great because you got 5 rooms and a fucking place to take a hot shower and have a meal and a little yard so your kids can play hula hoop and shit. And they can do that for generations and generations. And sooner or later, you'll expect your kids will expect a little less. They'll expect a little less, and they'll be okay with it because they still have it all right. And then the next generation will accept a little less, and over and over and over and over. And this has happened for forever, dude. For like the last 80 years, this has been going on. And now I just feel like it's finally reached a fucking head. It's just not good enough anymore. It's been a perfect system. It's been a perfect system of slavery.
You know what I find kind of funny
it's not
is that,
total
like,
slavery, okay? I'm not being like totally conspiracy theorist about it. I don't think like all my choices are like destroyed, but it really has been a way for a particular hierarchy to sort of stay in charge of everything all the time. The same families inherit these big corporations and these big businesses, and the stock market remains predictable to the same families all the fucking time. And now we're here and we're having the same fucking argument that they were having on Maude in the 1970s.
Really?
You just referenced fucking Maude.
Dude, watch Maude. What are the problems in Maude?
No,
social justice, feminism, the Middle East, the trickle-down economics,
stop, no.
Republicans. It was the same fucking argument.
I have to stop you. I'm stopping you.
We're on a loop.
You don't enter a point by saying, watch Maude, and then fucking go.
I just did.
Only someone who doesn't watch
Have you guys
Maude
ever
would
seen
say
Designing Women? Episode 28
Maude
of
and Designing Women are nowhere near the same thing.
Murphy Brown.
If you guys haven't watched enough 1989 primetime television, you know what the fuck is going on.
Sorry, man. Like, if you go back and watch Maude, it's almost shocking because they talk about.
Go back and watch fucking Maude.
Listen. They talk about women's rights, conservative Republicans, leftist Democrats. They talk about alcoholism. They talk about social justice. They talk about gay rights, the Middle East, Russia, and all these episodes are centralized around these social issues. And the 1970s did a good job at social issues, and we've talked about that in this show before when it comes to like All in the Family, for example, or the Jeffersons, right? That time period was very good at addressing social issues. So for me and her to go back and watch Maude because we were Golden Girls fans and we wanted to see B. Arthur and something else, when we realized that some of those episodes revolved around these issues, I was like, dude, they could have filmed this yesterday and we're still dealing with the same thing. So to me, it looks like a plan where the same loop of bullshit has been going on for years and years and it's perfected.
Rick, just a quick question.
Sure, you go ahead. Yeah, I'm a fan of the Golden Girls. I have a tank top with the Golden Girls.
You can't give me the floor and then come back in and talk about the Golden Girls. Okay, so listen, just out of curiosity, when you said me and her, shouldn't it have been her and I?
Damn.
God, you're
I'm
right,
just wondering
man.
if I should make a TikTok real quick.
God, you're right. You're right.
Professor
where I'm like, me and her were watching.
I'm gonna have to start digging around and see if your history facts are off.
Man, wait a minute, hold on. I just caught that because I know.
Her and I are fans of the Golden Girls. Sorry, when I speak street, it's different than when I speak academically.
That's street. When her and I and me and her be fucking, we be watching them Golden Girls.
When I'm street and I'm myself, all right. It's a different thing.
We be getting down on that Maude, John.
Listen,
you know
there's a difference. There's a difference between wanting to perfect yourself on paper and just communicating with your friends.
Okay, well, for the record,
Does it
Every
really mean anything different?
Every historical fact I bring up on this show is false. There you go.
Dude, I guarantee if I go on Parlor, if I go on Parlor, all your historical facts are fucked.
Dude, that just gave me. You know how I'm always telling him that he should start a history podcast. He should have a history podcast where he talks about 3 things that are like things that most people don't know about a certain period in history, and one of them is false. One of them didn't really happen.
That's called every class at 8:00 in the morning.
You just start making shit up on the fly. It sounds good.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah.
Suck my ass history. That's what it's called. Back to Rob Marshy. Suck my ass history.
I have a question. Okay. Can you think of anything that you've noticed a lot of your students believe that is completely false? Like a total misconception about something that happened in history that's totally untrue in every way? Like, is there
Salem
something...
witch trials, by far. The Salem witch trials. Salem witch trials and the story of Pocahontas. And Thanksgiving. All of the key things you learned in middle school. Yeah, well, people, that's I think the hardest part for me teaching. It depends on the subject. So, like, if you're in a certain, I'll give you for instance. So, like, if I teach U.S. history, the first common misconception is that United States is a capitalistic country. Like, we started as a capitalistic country, and that we're a Christian country. 2 of the 2 biggest misnomers possible, right? So, no. Capitalism doesn't start in this country the way that we view it until the late 1800s. It doesn't become complex capitalism until like the 1920s and 30s, and then after the Depression, it gets solidified because of World War II. So think about that. We've been a capitalist country for like 60 years. Outside of that, right? Our nation started by deists. It's full of backwards-ass Christians, Catholics, Protestants, Puritans, fucking Lutherans. I mean, it's just a hodgepodge. So really, Christianity is the basis for the religious aspect, but it's not the reason that the country was started. It actually fell apart within 60 years. So within 60 years of people coming here, they passed a halfway covenant, and people were like, "Do you believe in God?" They were like, "Sure," and they threw some water on them, and we're like, "All right, go to work. See you in church sometime." And within 60 years, religion didn't fucking matter here. That's why we had the Great Awakening, Second Great Awakening. But I think that a lot of people misconceive what's actually happening with the interaction between Europeans and indigenous people, and they totally misconceive what's happening in periods of time that revolve around American victories. We glorify our country without an objective standpoint. We've done exactly what the Europeans did to us by Eurocentrizing our history. And now we've done it to create nationalism and patriotism without thinking about what we've done wrong and how we've gotten there.
Every day we did it with the Pledge of Allegiance, my friend.
Right. And that's the kind of shit that, like, that's probably the hardest thing, is that when I explained that we're going to have a U.S. history class, that I'm going to talk about the founding fathers, and then I'm going to humanize them. They're not untouchable gods. They're real people with drinking problems and adultery problems and financial problems and vices and all kinds of shit. They're not great people. They did great things, but that doesn't make them untouchable. You know what I mean? Like, and I have found that, Mike Pepe in the chat put Ronald Wilson Reagan 666, which is a homage to Killer Mike's Ronald Reagan video. But I find that when I teach the second half of U.S. history, or even the third section that we've created in the last couple of years, you talk about Reagan in hindsight, and people lose their fucking collective mind, because boomers loved Reagan, and boomers' children loved Ronald Reagan, and boomers' children's loved Ronald Reagan. And people who were born in the 80s that were young and look back at Ronald Reagan and understand the situation, particularly historians will tell you first way, Ronald Reagan was not a good president. And that is,
he was a terrible human being too.
It's a hard thing to talk about somebody like that, though, when you're just decades removed. People don't typically do that. So like in the modern world, it's another thing that I think boomers and that generation past don't understand, is that social commentary is happening now in huge numbers that it didn't happen before.
Right.
That's a generation who was like, don't talk about your government, don't talk about religion, don't talk about all of that stuff. And we talk about it every day.
Yeah, they had a saying for it when you were out drinking. When you're out drinking, there's two things you don't talk about: government and religion.
Yep, politics and religion. You don't share it with anybody. You don't talk about it. And
Right.
now people can't wait to spill the motherfucking beans, dude,
Sure.
because they know they're going to get a bunch of people across it. The other thing I think, Sarah, to your question is, teaching African American history or teaching world history, is that people have their own understanding of the world without even knowing what the fucking globe looks like. So when they come in and they assume certain things, they don't take into consideration understanding history. You have to understand, or even current events. You have to understand geography, topography, the resources that are in a particular area. If you don't know these things, you can't comment on them. It's kind of like people who say a lot of shit about police brutality, or they talk about guns, or they talk about same-sex marriage and shit, but they live in New Jersey and have never been to Alabama. They've never been to Nebraska. They've never been to, Western Kentucky, or they've never been to Oregon. People bitch about California being a huge liberal state and have never been to California. California is a Republican motherfucking ass state.
No shit.
There's like
Yeah.
3 places in California that are liberal, and UC Berkeley is one of those areas.
Right.
So that's what the media covers. Most of California is red as fuck.
Yep.
And people don't realize that. They think that California is out there just smoking weed and having homosexual relationships and letting abortions
Like the Romans,
happen.
right up on the dining table.
Right. And that's scary. That just shows you the amount of people who really just don't fucking care. They don't. It's not they don't care. I guess they. One of the problems I'm having the most with teaching history these days is that people assume that they are not history people. And I had a conversation, ironically, Sarah, since she asked that question, on Tuesday morning. I had a class. One of my students was like, I'm following you. It's easy because we're doing what we're doing and you're making it interactive when we're talking about stuff, but I hate history and I'm not a history person. And we were talking about that, and then there was a comment about theater. And I was like, I don't think anybody here is understanding that history is theater. History is just a recollection of a themed storyline, right?
Right.
I teach history from the perspective of somebody who is a literary analyst,
Oh my
right?
God.
Like you're reading history and you're looking at the story, and then you're diving deeper into the person. The difference is, right? The difference is there's evidence of that person. Right, so
Right, you
it's
can't
not
reboot
the way
history.
An author created it. You look at a literary analysis, you go, "Hey, let's interview the author and think about where the author's psychology was when they created this." These are real people. So, like, if you read the textbook and you are intrigued, you can go even further. You can visit that person's house. You can look at what they like to eat. You can see contemporaries talking about them in other writings. You learn that person. You learn the place, the time, all of that shit. People don't realize that that's history. History is not, hey, in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue and he was terrible because he took over Native Americans. No. Read the motherfucking logs, dude. Read what people are talking about while he's in that space and time, and think about the people they're around and the places they're interacting with. And when you start diving into that and going, I don't want to just know the history. I want to understand the sociological aspect or the psychological aspect of these people. I want to know why people would want to drop a bomb on an entire country and wipe out a fucking country. I want to know why people felt it's okay to own and human traffic other human beings, and then say, fuck you, that's my right to do that, and not objectively look at themselves and go, I'm literally buying and selling human beings. Like, there's so much to history that isn't just a textbook telling you facts. When people say, oh, you read that shit, you've been indoctrinated by things people have written. Nobody's writing conspiracy theories, man. There's like 50,000 different authors talking about the same topic from different perspectives, and that's something you don't find in literature. You find it in history. It's real. This shit fucking happened. And if you don't like what you're reading about it because you don't agree with it, try the other side. And if the other side is actually agreeing with the bad side of what you don't like, sorry, that's real.
But the other
It's
problem
just-
here too is that people are starting to redefine what's bad. And a lot of people have convinced themselves that their shitty ass beliefs are acceptable because they have the freedom to believe them. And that's getting really fucking weird.
I mean, that's the norm. That's what it is. It's you don't, what's funny is you see people complain about people trying to cut out hate speech, right? And of course, hate speech is legal. It's freedom of speech. But like, you fucking know you're saying something that's fucked up. So
Right.
you just want the freedom to do that, which you have. All you're doing is outing yourself as a piece of fucking dog shit.
Totally.
That's all you're really doing. And the people that don't care about that, fuck you. You know what I mean? Like, if you have the freedom of speech to be a piece of shit, I have the freedom of speech to tell you you're a piece of shit and then out you as a piece of shit. And you don't have the right then to beat the shit out of me or kill me, but you also have you have that choice to make. But the fucked up part is that's the First Amendment. And those people who are like, well, you can't fucking tell me what I can't say or
Yeah.
do. No one's telling you that. But the people that bug out about social media, you're like, you're on a fucking platform that's privately owned.
But I will
get
say
it's
this,
like
man. I will say this,
First
though.
Amendment has nothing to do with private citizens.
I'll tell you what. There's a difference to me lately, though, between freedom of speech and people who use speech as an action to call people together to oppress another people. So, like, I'm starting to, like, understand that, like, not starting to, but, like, I understand that there's a difference between the two things. You know, like, some asshole, I shared a GIF on my Facebook page of, like, a Nazi standing there. He had a fucking armband with a swastika, and the black dude knocked him the fuck out. And I feel like everybody's seen that GIF image, right?
Yeah.
And I posted it, and this guy posted, he was like, oh, imagine thinking that it's okay to be violent against somebody because they're practicing freedom of speech. And I said, imagine thinking that this is freedom of speech and not a call to action for other people to oppress another people. So there's a fucking huge difference between freedom of speech and me claiming that the things that I'm saying are nothing more than words and not a call to action to pull people together to attack another people. It's not okay to yell fire in a fucking movie theater for a reason. You know what I mean?
Freedom of speech only applies for when the government's dealing with citizens. That's it. It doesn't have anything to do with citizens and citizens talking to each other.
Good.
That's not what freedom of speech is.
So how do you
No.
mean?
I mean, it's to protect us from the government. That's
Yeah.
all it is. It's so we can say whatever the fuck we want to the government and they can't do shit about it. That's all it is. We can protest, we can do all that shit. Freedom of press.
That's all
right.
being-
Everything else is left up to social commentary. So if you exercise that right and you go and you protest, most of the comments aren't, hey, why are you protesting? It's like, why don't you have a job? Why do you have the time
Yeah.
to go do that? Why do you and the judgment of people who do protest. Yet the same people who go out and say that are the same people that'll go buy a flag and wave their flag outside their house and go, don't blame me, I voted for Trump. That's your own kind of social protest. You're trying to be a douchebag on purpose publicly, and that's how you view the very people you're judging for walking down the street with
So
a
is
fucking poster.
does freedom of speech okay for people who choose to be a douchebag on purpose? Because I feel like a douchebag
If
is
somebody's being a
gaslighting people
douchebag to
around
you
them on
personally-
purpose, knowing that that's what the fuck they're doing. We all know that's what the fuck they're doing.
Has nothing to do with freedom of speech at that point. If it's a person dealing with you, another person, it doesn't apply anymore.
Right.
So-
and
So give me an example of what you mean.
Freedom of speech doesn't apply to.
What he's saying is that
corporations
if Pat and I are sitting in this conversation and Pat wants to be a fucking asshole to me, he has the right to be an asshole to me. And I really can't fucking do anything about it other than listen to him be an asshole to me, and then
Right.
I could be an asshole back to him. That's
No, but you can punch me in the face. If I'm an asshole to the government, they can't come and punch me in the face.
Right.
That's what freedom of speech is.
Right.
That's
right.
all it is.
But
It
that's
has
what I
nothing
mean is
to do
that
with you,
people think that because they have that there can't be physical repercussions.
Yeah, that they can't.
Like,
it's not.
like,
It's
the
not
only
freedom
thing on
from
your side is that
consequence,
you can. The only thing that you can. The only thing that sucks about it is that with the way that we have treated those types of things, now lawsuits are so prevalent that when you say something that you think you can fucking say, and I kick your fucking ass, I'll go to jail because you have the freedom of speech to say what you said.
But not really.
But yes, you do. I mean,
No,
you can
because-
say if you can provoke me into fucking you up, dude. I'm the violent one.
Well, yeah, you're the violent one, but that was your choice.
Right.
If you didn't make that choice, freedom of speech has nothing to do with the situation. You can't use that in a court of law.
That's what I mean. It's a moot point. Like freedom of speech is not. So when it comes to hate crimes, where does that draw the line? Like
Yeah,
hate
no
speech.
freedom of
When I mean
speech
hate speech.
Assault. You can assault someone with words, apparently, legally.
Well, if you're
no.
saying things that are hateful, yeah, because most of that hate speech is centered on like the eradication of a certain group. At that, I don't know. I personally feel like if you're saying something along the lines of hate speech, and if someone's reacting, it's self-defense because it's clear what you want.
But
If
you
you're
can't-
walking down the street wearing a swastika on your hand or your arm, then you
That's what I'm saying. It's not
want to
speech
kill.
anymore.
You want
It
to.
goes
You
beyond
are
Right,
literally
it's not speech
advocating
anymore.
to
You can't, like-
kill
It's
someone
action.
like me
Yeah,
or
you
someone
can't
who is
threaten
black
someone.
or someone who's Jewish, and like if I punch you in the face, I'm defending myself. I'm
Sure.
going to defend. Like I don't know that to me is.
Sure, but you
swastika's
can't,
a threat.
You can't punch somebody in. I mean, is it?
I mean,
You
but
can't-
if it's
so
someone
swastika's
like
a
threat.
if it's
Look,
someone
listen.
like
Here's
a
why.
Karen.
Here's why is a
Tony.
swastika's a threat?
Like,
Because
say-
when I
say
say
we're arguing.
swastika, literally everybody on this show and everybody watching this show right now knows exactly how horrible that symbol is.
yeah.
It's not up for interpretation.
Right.
So if
But
you wear it and
is
walk
it a
around,
threat?
absolutely
I'd
it is
say
because it's a
absolutely,
call to
100%.
action because you want other
100%.
people to wear it, you want people to acknowledge it, you want people to agree with it. Therefore, what you want is a movement against another people, and that's what that is symbolizing. It's
Yeah,
not
but
just a
it's
quirky
well-defined
fuck
that
you
way.
to everybody. It's a concentrated action or call to action against another people. And a call to action is not the same thing as freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is I think that black people should be able to do this or not do this. This is a fucking unified action. You want people to join you, understand what the symbol means. You want people to follow the symbol. You want people to wear the symbol. And you market it because you believe another people should be oppressed and hurt. So, because it is so visceral in that way, yeah, I think it's different than freedom of speech.
Well,
I think
would go
it's-
one
by the
step
law,
further
then
and
yeah,
say
it
that's
is
a direct threat.
I disagree. Because
I
if I wear a shirt that's got a big black fist on it, what does that mean?
Well, you're talking about people who are coming from a place of being oppressed in the first place. So fighting back against oppression is not the same thing as promoting oppression.
If
Right.
I see somebody walk down the street and
Here's-
they're wearing a swastika,
Mm-hmm.
my first instinct is this person is trouble. They see me, someone who looks like me, and they want to eradicate someone who looks like me. And I'm talking about very specific type of type of hate group, like a Nazi. If I see somebody who wears that and they walk down the street and they see me, they believe that I should not exist. They believe that I should be dead. And people who look like me, people who are black or Jewish or gay should not exist. That is that's threatening. That in my opinion, if you should not
Let me
be
just
walking
throw
down the street.
let me just throw this out here and get your take on this. So I totally understand what you're saying. I understand what you're all saying, but let me just put this out there. The SS and the Third Reich and Hitler's entire movement came out of Germany believing they were the oppressed at a time where World War I,
Sure.
based on Woodrow Wilson's
Yeah,
points,
right.
was completely blamed on Germany. And they were driven
Right.
into a fucking massive depression which the United States then took advantage of, and then their enemies in England and France blamed them for everything. And then America forced Germany to come up with finances, loaned them the money on an exchange rate they could never pay back, and then forced them into poverty while shutting them down at the demilitarization so they could never be a group of people to ever compete with anybody. Now, that is a decade before the Holocaust, right? That's 12 years before the Holocaust. That's 12 years of pent-up frustration, animosity, judgment, basically defecated on the entire country for not even involved in the initial stages of World War I. Like, and again, I'm not defending them. I'm just objectively explaining, the circumstances of World War I. And World War I equated to World War II. It led to World War II in Germany's quote-unquote resurgence of minorly looked at people and majorly oppressed human beings who were like, fuck this, we're taking this shit all back. And then the genocide happened way after that.
Right.
So I feel though as though, I could understand what you mean by saying, having people with a swastika on their shirt and going out publicly and trying to generate that kind of fucking negative energy and hate and frustration, or someone who's tattooed that, as Mike Pepe said, on his chest and will have that on them forever. You know what I mean? And that kind of shit is just, if you go to play basketball, even if you don't have racist views anymore and you go play basketball with somebody, you take your shirt off and, some American History X type shit. But if we're going to say that, then you have to throw the branch on the other side and go, all right, well, but there are militant ass motherfucking, Black Lives Matter people, and there are militant ass people who are Islamic, and there are militant ass. So if I wear that shirt, I love Islam, or if I wear a Black Lives Matter shirt, wouldn't that equate?
No, here's why.
I don't really think so, because you're not, like, how many really great little Nazi organizations can we list off the top of our heads?
But that's, we're not talking about greatness. We're talking about that's what they support in a country where there is free speech.
That's why the government doesn't get involved with this.
But maybe at the time, I don't think,
Pat?
That's why the government doesn't get involved with this. There's too many nuances to it. I mean,
well, that's what I think. That's ultimately why I think.
That's not the reason they don't get involved. It's because it's a fucking right. That's why they don't.
But that's exactly why I think that when the shit happened at the Capitol building in January, right? It's not that they couldn't have had the police presence to shut it down. It's not that they couldn't have stopped it immediately. It's that the media is covering that shit. And if you kill because they come at you and like my biggest issue with that whole kind of overthrow kind of shit that happened there is that I've been to that building 20 fucking times. And dudes stand outside that bitch with AK-47s, man. You can't just walk in that building. Yeah. So if that's a threat, it better be a fucking threat. So if I feel scared walking into that building and nervous and I got to take everything out of my pockets and I got to think German shepherds are fucking all over me and shit, like, and these motherfuckers could just climb up a goddamn wall and break down a window. I was like, how the fuck is this possible? And then I thought about it.
Because they got let in.
You're on television.
When are you gonna shoot our citizens?
You can't shoot people on camera with
Fuck
military.
yeah, you can, because
No, you
obviously you
Not
can
in
shoot
this
black
country.
people on fucking
No.
camera, and cops
No,
get
man.
let off, dude.
Not-
And it happens
not in
all the
this
fucking
country.
time. But those goddamn assholes, you couldn't fucking. And let me tell you something else. The one other fucking dickhead getting 8 years in fucking jail for the shit that he did is bullshit. People in the 90s who got arrested for a dime bag of weed are doing fucking life in prison for a dime bag of goddamn marijuana. And these motherfuckers could attack the Capitol holding
Rick,
motherfucking
I'm-
Confederate flags.
As pissed
8
as
years.
As you
Suck
are,
my
man.
dick 8 fucking years. They'll be out in fucking 3 years on fucking parole. What's the difference, man?
The difference is
What's the difference?
If you pull out a fucking automatic rifle and fire into a crowd of white fucking people in a predominantly white country with fucking
Well, isn't
It's a
that
problem.
fucked up? Isn't that
That's-
a fucking problem?
That's-
Because I'll
That's
tell you what, if
why-
that were
But
Black
that's what
Lives
I'm
Matter
saying- that's what I'm
protesters, let me
saying,
tell you
man.
what the difference is. If it were Black Lives Matter protesters, I imagine they would be going in there to get rights rather than going there to oppress rights of other people they share the country with. And to me, that's the fucking difference. That's the total fucking difference between freedom of speech and veiled freedom of speech. Bullshit.
talking- you're
If
talking
you're
about it,
using
though,
your
on a-
freedom to take away another person's freedom, then it's not a representation of freedom at all.
Yeah,
It's
but you're
you
talking about
circumventing the
shooting people
system
over
with
being allowed
bullshit
to
that we all
think.
know is bullshit.
I think back to Rob's point before with the Black Lives Matter shirt and the and the Islamic militant groups. I think everybody who at one point in their life decided they were going to get a swastika tattoo or an SS tattoo or wear some type of Nazi propaganda at one point in their life wholeheartedly believed or still believe that certain minority groups should not exist.
Well, now you're going to hate me because I'm going to tell you something. For as much as I've stood here screaming about this, I know somebody, not personally, but I know I have a friend of the family who has a friend. And the kid, when he was a kid, he was terribly abused and raised in a situation where he had his mother had hoarding issues. They had dead animals all over the house. It was an extreme situation, extreme abuse. And he had no friends and no social skills. And out in the world, when he was homeless, somebody took him in and said, you know, we're going to take care of you. And they did. And they also turned out to be Nazis. And he had all these tattoos all over him. And when he got older, he was like, this is bullshit and I don't know what to do now. And he left the group and said, fuck them. And then he covered all this shit up. And then for years, he didn't know what to do with it because he realized that he fell into that group because of abuse. So I just wonder, I guess I bring it up because I wonder, based on what you're saying, if that changes anything.
It does, absolutely. I mean, there's always people out there who you know, because of their circumstances and the way that they were brought up, come up with certain beliefs. And those people are, I mean, there's always a chance to change, you know, like there's always the opportunity to see things differently. And, you know, we can hold space for those people. But at the same time, it's tricky because, you know, there are hate groups that are for different race, you know, for white people. There's and they exist, and I'm not going to deny their existence, but I think my opinion on this might be a little bit skewed, just because me personally, if I see somebody walking down with any type of Nazi propaganda on them, I just freak out.
I don't think it's skewed at all. I think it's the perspective that's most necessary to hear.
Well, I mean, it's scary because I don't know like what that person wants to do or what they believe, or if, you know, like if they want to harm me or if they want to harm anyone that I'm with that I love. You know, like my first instinct when I see that is to just be afraid and to get as far away from that person as possible.
Yeah.
On top of that, like anybody, like if there was any other reason for those tattoos to be there, like let's say they were just adopted by a really nice Nazi family and had no idea that Nazis had anything to do with anything terrible until they were adults, it doesn't change the fact that they know what it is now and they're still choosing to wear it where people could see it. Like so like at this point, you know that what this represents, you know the immediate reaction you're going to get, you know that it's going to put people in uncomfortable. So if you know that, you choose to do it anyway.
That's why you
like,
don't take your shirt off at the basketball game if you're ashamed of it.
That's kind of my point. Like, I don't know. Like, if I saw a dude with a NAMBLA tattoo, I wouldn't sit there trying to figure out if it was a good idea to have my kids around him. I would just know what the tattoo meant.
I mean, it's just an awkward and uncomfortable situation to be put in. And I've been to like shows before where I've seen someone wear like a swastika, or like I've seen somebody wear, like it's just, it's uncomfortable, and and it freaks me out. And if I see that, my first instinct is, well, time to fucking go, because I don't know what this person wants to do. I don't know what's going to go down here.
Let me ask you a question though. Would you rather see it and know that they're there, or would you rather them not be displaying it and then them just do it all of a sudden and you have no idea about it?
I will say this, it's different for me because
they're like telling on themselves when they do this shit.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's a little different for me because I am white passing. So like if people see me, most people I don't think immediately know that I'm like Dominican and Puerto Rican. So like I can kind of go walk through society and have the privileges of being a white woman, if you will. But like I've been in situations where I've heard people say some really racist shit and turn around and look at me and be like, yeah, do you agree with us? And I'm like, well, no, because I
hate that.
Latin.
I've had that happen to me a few times.
Sure, working in construction, dude, totally.
Oh yeah, and then also like my dad is black, or was black, and those people, I would rather them just not take it off, because I don't want to know about it, because I already exist through life knowing that there's racist people everywhere. I don't think you need to advertise it. I just don't want any part of it. I don't want to know about it, especially if you're like a whole ass Nazi and you want to kill people who look like me. I just don't, I just kind of want to avoid that. It really freaks me out. I really have to say, like, it really freaks me out. And like, I have like stories about like, one time when I was a little kid, like my dad and I and my sister, and my sister's like way whiter than I am. She looks like, I don't even know. She doesn't even look like she's related to us. But we, driving down to Virginia and like going across the country with my dad, him being pulled over, and we actually had like a whole game how many times he would get pulled over, and people were asking, like there's a lot of stuff that I noticed, like how he was treated, and so that always put like the fear into me. Like he would always tell us, like, you never know, you always have to be careful, because this is a reality that I live with. Thankfully you don't have to experience it as much as I do, but you do have to be careful. And so anything like that, when it comes with like hate groups, or where there's people out there who really believe in the eradication of people who look like my dad or people who look like me, it just freaks me out. And I just, I don't know, it's almost like a visceral response where I'm like, yo, I'm thanks, I'm out. Bye.
It's a survival response.
Exactly. That sucks though.
How did
a good response to have though? I mean, knowing that there's danger and you get the fuck out of there, that's a good thing.
I mean, like I said, like I have a lot of privileges with, and I hate to say this way, but it's a reality. I have a lot of privilege looking the way that I look. I've not had the experience that my dad has had, or that my mom has had.
I know exactly what you mean. When I get pulled over, I'm like, thank fucking God I'm white and have blue eyes.
Yeah.
Because I might get killed. And I fucking acknowledge it. I know it. Exactly. Right.
Or like, or told horrible things, or like been denied loans, or credit cards because of the color of their skin. Like my parents have stories about that, and I can exist in society, not going through some of the things that my parents had to go through. And unfortunately, the reason for that is because of my skin color. I'm a lot whiter than what they are. So it's just, it's kind of weird, because like I feel like I have like, I can see both ends of it. Like I can see the discrimination and the things that darker people go through and like black people go through, because I have a parent who is darker and my dad was black. And so I can see, I literally saw it growing up, and then I see how people treat me and how differently it is. And it's a real eye-opening experience. And it's an American reality.
Do you carry any guilt? Do you ever feel guilty because of that?
No, I mean, it's my skin color. There's nothing I can do about that.
Sure.
It's just, yeah, that's how I was born. I mean, I feel sometimes I do because I wish there was more that I could do. And when I see things like, especially when I'm like in a group of people I don't know who are white, and they, something comes up and they say something that's like racist, obviously racist. It's uncomfortable, and I try to like interject, but the response I usually get is, "Oh, well, you're not like them, or you don't act like them, or
Oof.
talk like them." Yeah, I don't feel guilty about like my skin color. I feel guilty that I guess people have to go through that, and it just sucks, But it's not anything that I can really complain about because it's not my reality. It's not my, it's not my experience to tell. It's people who are, Black Americans who have it far worse than I do. Nothing that I experience is it pales in comparison to what, other people face or experience and the discrimination that they face. I feel like my experience is not really even worth talking about because it's just, it just isn't. I don't have any real discriminatory, I don't get scared when the police pull me over.
Right.
Or I don't get followed around when I go into a store. So.
And that's the reason why I asked. The only reason I asked about the guilt thing, not because I felt like you should have it, but because you talk about it in that way. You acknowledge that like your dad has it worse. So I just wonder if that was sort of like a negative side effect of the whole thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it sucks. It sucks, but it's just one of those things that like you see it, and it sucks more when people deny that there is such a thing as white privilege, because I've seen it in real time many times throughout
Sure.
my life, and I feel like when people talk about white privilege, there's like this kind of ego thing that comes out where people say, well, I worked hard for what I have, and I had to struggle, and I pulled myself up by my bootstraps. And yeah, that I'm not discrediting anybody's ability to work hard and anybody's I guess work ethic or anything like that, but you kind of have a leg up a little bit in society, and denying that.
We have an issue with critical thinking in this country too, where people can't people personalize those things rather than saying it's a systemic issue. And
Yeah.
even the term systemic issue almost sounds too complicated for some people to sit down and pay attention to.
It is.
Isn't that the main fucking problem that everybody complains about, right? When you
Sure.
look at it, you say, well, here's what's going on in the country, and you try to have a conversation logically with people. The people that are the most riled up are the ones that have no stake in it. Right? They have no stake in it. They're just commenting for the sake of having an opinion. And most of those people have an opinion because they're dictated to having opinions. They don't have opinions because, I got a cousin that works over there, or I have a family member. Very rarely do you have that. And if they are saying it like that, they're making it up.
I can't believe the amount of shit that people say they believe without any thought behind it at all.
I'm like, oh, you ever been to Baltimore? And they're like, no. And I'm like, then what the fuck are you talking about? Like,
Right. Baltimore's a bad city. That's a bad place.
Oh yeah, it's terrible.
The best seafood in my fucking life in Baltimore. What the hell are you talking about?
Philadelphia is very scary. Yeah, like
Yeah,
8
sure.
blocks of North Philadelphia is very scary. Otherwise, you're just driving through Philadelphia, man.
And
People are gonna
also the term "very scary" is something you need to break down for me. Sorry.
Yeah. You mean by looking at what I'm looking at when I'm driving through the street is scary because
Sure.
that scares you? Like,
Or maybe because poor people have been centralized to this point and now they're fucking struggling and all this other shit. See what's happening? It's just not as easy as it was. It's not sitcoms in the 1980s and 1990s anymore. You need continuity. You need to understand,
full circle. If we still had All in the Family, we'd be all right.
right? God, I miss all you guys. I can't wait till the time you can actually fucking come here.
Wish we had a man like Herbert Hoover again.
Guys, I'm shutting down the show for the evening. I love all of you.
I thought the party just started.
Unless you guys want to continue to get fucked up and keep going. I don't know. I would need to vote on that. I don't know. That's up to you guys. Because I kind of feel like we're on fire tonight, but, you know, what are you going to do?
I didn't even think we were doing a show. I thought we were just hanging out.
We are, right, and that's the best show. That's the best show. Mike Pepe's hanging out.
I like when Mike Pepe hangs out. He's gotta get Mike Pepe on the show.
Dude, I'm not
thinking that.
sure about this, but I feel like I went to high school with Mike Pepe.
I'll be right back.
But I don't know if that's true or if I just made that shit up. He could live like in another.
Sarah, the way you said that, it sounded like we were all at a bar together and Mike Pepe went to go take a piss and you were like, you know,
That guy.
I was looking at his eyes before. He looks like this guy I had art with in like 11th
Well,
grade.
dude, you know what's so weird that you said that? The reason why I think it's actually not because I remember him specifically, like his face or anything. The reason why I thought I might have gone to school with him is actually because a girl that I was friends with, who I had art with, I remember her saying his name. And I don't know if it's the same Mike Pepe. It would be
He asked where you went to high school.
I went to Howell. And the weird thing is, the friend is a mutual friend of mine and his on Facebook. So I feel like she knew him in high school and I heard his name through her many times, which is weird. I don't know. Like I said, I could just be making
her
up
real
this shit.
name?
Mike Pepe's name isn't Mike Pepe's real name.
Really?
Yeah, his name is Mike PP.
That makes sense.
He went to Allentown High School.
Well, we definitely didn't go to high school together, but that doesn't exclude the fact that like I said, I don't remember him like physically. I just remember a friend saying his name. Like you know how in high school you had friends that had like their own friends that you never met because they were from another town.
Totally.
But you heard their names all the time.
The other
Like,
friends, yeah.
His name was always familiar.
I have
to
a
me in the
feeling,
chat
Sarah,
because
based
I
on Michael's personality, Michael and I are acquaintances through me bartending, and he has that personality that if you knew him, you were like, I know this guy, Mike Pepe. He's got an electric personality.
It'd be easy to remember. It's just Sarah would be one of the evil goth girls in high school.
Yeah, but if it was just that his name was really Mike PP, you'd never forget that. You'd be like, like it would be 30 years from now. You'd be like, remember that time at that bar we met Mike PP?
I'm like,
That's
oh,
that
Mike PP.
That's that moment at the graduation ceremony where they announce his name, you know?
Yeah, like if I was like Bobby Balls, if you met me,
Is there a Mike PP here?
right, what does he say? Is there a what the hell's he asking?
A Hugh Jess? Is there a Hugh Jess here?
Imagine if I was like Bobby Balls and Wieners, you'd never forget that. You'd be like, oh, there's Bobby Balls and Wieners. It's, Mike PP is fucking amazing.
You'd have to
if you just added an E to each part of that name, if his name was literally PP, you couldn't fucking deny that shit. Like 60 years later, you'd be at an Italian cafe and be like, I never met you, but I stalked your profile because your name is Mike PP. I bought a jersey with your last name on it because it's PP.
Yeah.
Like
PP01.
Amazing. I'm going to do it, Mike. Give me a number. Whatever the number is you give me, I will order in my favorite fucking team, and I will put PP on the back.
What's your favorite number?
Whatever Mike's favorite number is. I'm gonna get an Awesome Talk jersey with PP on the back.
Get an Awesome Talk. Do it.
Do people typically have a
13.
favorite number?
I think people have favorite numbers. I have three favorite numbers.
Does everybody
I
here
like
have favorite numbers? What'd you say,
I have
Pat?
one.
I said I like certain numbers.
Huh.
Go on, you guys. I've heard a lot of I have favorite numbers. I like numbers. What numbers and why?
I love Sarah's response where she went, "Huh."
I was just doing a small study and I was surprised at the results.
That was like, you fucking peons. You superstitious peon fucks. Numbers mean nothing. Numbers aren't even real. We just sent a billionaire to space in a dick rocket.
Oh, God.
My whole life is a lie.
Sets of numbers too. How about that?
Well, what?
I don't.
Sets
What did you?
of numbers.
Sex with numbers.
You
Sets.
sets. SETS. Pat likes gang banging numbers as well.
I gang bang by the numbers, folks.
4, 13, and 29.
Dude, get a jersey that says that exactly. 4,13. Yeah, like the whole thing on the back.
Awesome talk with a question mark at the end of the numbers, like, which one am I today? It's a trans awesome talk jersey.
Yes. Hey, is anybody else excited about the Jackass movie?
I'm number fluid.
Yes, actually a little bit. I really like Jackass. That was.
I don't know the premise of it. I just saw Johnny Knoxville fly out of a cannon with gray hair.
And
it's just
angel
a bunch of old
wings.
dudes now trying very hard to kill themselves.
Oh my
but
God,
not
I can't
really.
wait. I've always loved those guys.
Is Bam Margera still in it? Like,
No,
is he gonna still-
Bam's going through some shit, dude, it seems.
So Bam's
it's
not in
sad.
it, and Chris
No.
Pontius is.
Chris
Is
Pontius
Pontius-
looks like he hasn't aged one single day.
Is he in it?
Yes, of course.
So without Ryan Dunn and without.
Bam
Bam
Margera.
Margera.
Sure, yeah, you got those two guys gone.
So it's
Bam was
basically-
supposed to
it's
be in it, but he got
Knoxville and
Bam was supposed to be in it, but he got kicked out. He was supposed to stay sober, and apparently there was a whole
he
regimen.
relapsed and started-
Yeah, it's been like really rough for him. But Steve-O did an interview recently where he said that he's been in constant touch with Bam and the family. Bam Margera has not been the same since Ryan Dunn died.
No, not at all.
That's exactly what happened, and it's horrifying to watch because if you watch the news report of Bam Margera when he's at the crash site where Ryan Dunn died, it's like you're watching somebody just emotionally crumble on live TV, and it's really hard to watch, and it's
Yeah.
really painful because Bam Margera went to shit at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And that was truly his best friend in the whole world. And I feel like it goes, I don't know why it goes weirdly unaddressed, but I feel like that's exactly what happened. And I feel bad for him. Bam Margera has done some shitty things, but Bam Margera has been so unsober for so long that you do start to get to a point where you're like, I'm not sure what to do with your pain.
I feel
for
that
you, and
Bam,
I
feel
and
that Bam
all the
really didn't
horrible
do
things you've
terrible
done,
things, right?
all the
I don't
horrible
think
things you've done. I mean, I don't know what's forgivable or not. I'm not part of your personal life, but I feel so terrible for how much you're fucking hurting because your friend died. Because that seems to be like exactly what happened.
Yeah, that it was very clear. He was not the same person after that happened, after Ryan Dunn passed. Yeah. It's really sad too, because he was at one point getting, I think, sober, and he was like starting to get his stuff together, like his life together a little
It
bit.
keeps
and then,
happening. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's addiction. It's really sad to see.
That's
It's like we're watching someone destroy themselves.
because of how much pain they're in, and they never talk
Yeah.
about it. Like, if you think about it, of all the Bam Margera videos you've ever seen pop up on, anywhere, TMZ or whoever the fuck report, because sometimes it makes like news, right? Because
Yeah.
it's so crazy. He never mentions Ryan Dunn.
No,
And it
he's always on the
breaks
verge
my
of tears.
heart because I fucking know that that's what the problem is. And I feel like he needs to let that out in the world or something. Like, I feel sad for him.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel sad for him. No matter what kind of shitty things he ever does, I feel sad because only somebody in a certain kind of pain could behave that way.
Was he problematic? I don't know if he was.
Who, Bam?
I don't mean, yeah, like, I don't know if he, aside from, like, his addiction, Did he do anything like, I don't know, controversial?
I don't really remember
I don't
anything.
remember hearing anything about it.
I don't remember
Besides
hearing anything that was.
manipulating his friends into doing dumb shit.
Yeah, that was it. That was the
yeah,
end of
but
it.
I mean,
Sure.
like, he was, you know, like, he obviously, like, was, like, I don't know, drinking heavily. And
That
like,
no,
I
that
don't know, all those
definitely.
guys,
Here's the
like,
thing. Here's the thing.
Citizens
All those
United.
guys were doing drugs and drinking.
Yeah.
Definitely. For Bam Margera, I think he was a guy who did drugs and drank. And I think after Ryan Dunn died, he was an addict.
Mhm.
There's not a single person I've ever met that's been a total addict that it's where it's not connected to trauma. It is always connected to trauma.
Always,
It's
yep.
never just the drug or the drink. There's something connected to it that is impossible for you to process. And 100% of the time, it's always that fucking way. Even if it takes forever to figure out what it is. And for Bam Margera, to me, there is a very obvious change that took place where he went to a guy who partied a lot to a guy who was doing this as a way to exist.
Yeah.
And it just, it makes me sad. I want him to be better. I want him to be better, like the same way, like people bitch about, like, people who complain about Britney Spears. Like, oh, what do you care about Britney Spears? You know, why don't you care about other people? I do care about other people. I'm just saying that I recognize an injustice and a pain that another person is in, and it's very public, and I'm able to fucking see all of it, and I'm just responding to it. It sucks. It's horrible. I think these people need help.
Yeah. Brittany is different, though, I think. Brittany is, like, that is, like, I don't even know how they let this conservatorship happen.
Courtney Love
just
said that
seems-
judge was picked on purpose. And I know Courtney Love takes a lot of shit, but I think she was right.
I think so too, then, because that to me just like, I saw something that was like, if Ozzy Osbourne can can manage his own money, then Britney sure can.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that Free Britney thing is really upsetting to watch.
It's agonizing because we're watching somebody who excelled at something, whether we liked it or not at the time, made a lot of money doing it,
Mm-hmm.
and then lost their personhood completely
Well, I think
in front of
about
the
it
whole
like-
world.
I think about it like it's very sad that that's happening to her and like disturbing. But if they could do that shit to a pop star,
For this
who
long.
else can they do that to?
Right, for this
This
long.
happens to disabled people often. This
Oh.
is like as far
100%.
in like the disability rights community, the issue of conservatorships is a very big ableist fucking deal. And like right now the disability community is looking at the issue with Britney Spears as a disability rights issue.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, a situation where a lot of the public's first question is more along the lines of, she's not disabled enough to need that, instead of why the fuck is she getting it at all?
Yes.
Which shows the bigger problem here. Like, you know, it's so bad. Like she has less rights than a prisoner, like in a prison.
yeah.
It's just I don't know. Like, how do you exist if you're not a person? Like, legally, you're
Right.
not a person.
Yeah.
It's not okay for any of us to sit here and watch a person be treated like a pawn in front of the whole world to make money for some other fucking asshole. It is on such a grandiose, fucked up scale, too. Because
And this is how
it's
the legal
global.
system's set up.
What's up?
This is how the legal system's set up.
100% right. Absolutely right.
I
if you
saw an
wanna
article.
change shit, you got to change that.
Yeah.
I saw an article that came out a couple days ago, and it was a picture of Britney Spears in a car with her boyfriend. And it said, like, Britney has a nice day out with her boy. I don't know what the fuck it said. And I was just like, so you guys are just doing it all over again? Like, following her and stalking? Like,
And
how is this okay? Like, this shit's gonna continue forever. Like,
sure.
she has to, like, get plastic surgery and, like, become a different person, like,
To be
completely. Like,
And
it's
let me tell you
never
something.
gonna stop.
Let me tell you something. What worries me too is that this exact type of thing is continuing to happen. Because I told you guys, they're coming for Billie Eilish, dude. and Millie
Oh,
Bobby
yeah.
from Stranger Things. And let me tell you something, man. The two of them look more and more depressed in pictures to me every fucking day. They're constantly being attacked in the press for what they're doing because they're coming of age and becoming women or sexual beings or whatever the fuck it is, or adults. And they're constantly under attack. But how did they start out? They started out as strong female figures, girl power. Britney Spears, when she started, that girl power saying was fucking everywhere. And then she got put through the vacuum of pop stars, where you hit a certain point where you're crazy or a drug addict or you're partying too much and the paparazzi's following you around. And I see that shit starting again. And it's like, if I had like a message for like Gen Z, it would be like, yo, we've seen this before. Don't get on board with this shit now.
Don't sign your life over to people.
And don't do
Yeah.
that either. For the love of fucking God. Don't do that either. But also, when you see a fucking person in the press who you used to look up to suddenly being demonized and attacked, take a step back, take a deep breath, examine what the fuck is going on, and maybe not destroy that person's life.
Well, they
Because
tried to do that with Taylor Swift.
100%.
They said that she was like this crazy ex-girlfriend, and they like really they slut shamed Taylor Swift really
And
badly.
nobody stopped to think that Tom
Yeah.
Mayer maybe is just sticking his dick in 2 minutes. Like, what?
Yeah.
How does he
yeah,
not
but,
take
like,
the
she
same
doesn't
criticism?
She didn't even. I mean, that's like I remember something like she had an interview. I don't remember who it was with, but they asked her, and I was like, she's literally like doing what any 24, 25-year-old
For real.
girl would do.
So fuck
date
off.
multiple people. It's not abnormal. So I don't know. With Billie Eilish, it's really scary to see because she's still really young,
And she
like,
was also considered the most independent, smart, talented, wholesome. Her fucking perspective on herself
Are
and
you
her body
talking about-
was fucking
are you
was
saying-
center stage in every article I ever fucking read about her. And the second she dyes her hair or her tits come out a little bit when she turns 18, all of a sudden I'm hearing the narrative switch. And it's like, this is the red flag, folks.
Can I ask you a
Don't
question
turn
about
her into
because
Britney Spears.
I really enjoyed her musical style when it came out. Like I had to learn. I liked when that
Talented for sure.
when that series came out, that documentary thing on her came out. Like I didn't have. I guess it was out on. Was it on a Disney Plus or was it on?
Who,
I don't know
Billie
which one.
Eilish?
Yeah, the Billie Eilish documentary, the thing that came out last year about her and her brother making music.
I kind of remember something like that.
I think that was HBO.
Right. So I was like completely absorbed with wanting to learn more about where she came from, who she was, because her characteristics really I found endemic of musicians. You know, good musicians, like the kind that go early, Amy Winehouse type shit. You know, like
For real.
and what bothers me, like what I feel weird about what you're saying is that she seems more and more depressed. Is that I never saw her as not. I always thought she was. I'm like, this girl's gonna be gone before she's 23. And
That's horrible to feel that way. To see
no,
that.
I felt that way from the minute I
The
saw
type
her
of-
performing. I kind of saw her as someone who, at 17 and 18, people are talking about her as.
Yeah, that's right.
It was the way that people talked about Kurt Cobain when grunge
That's right.
music
That's
came
exactly
out, man.
right, dude.
And-
Exactly. I
And
saw the
she
same thing.
And she's already her persona, her character is to be independent, but also noticeably depressed.
And as she becomes an
and-
adult
Yeah, but
woman,
the same thing happened with. I mean, Lorde. I don't know if you remember
Totally.
Lorde when she came out.
Yep.
It was kind of the same way. She had that same sort of.
But
vibe
Lorde
to
also
her.
comes from an incredibly financially wealthy family and has a humongous tie to diplomats. And like her, I feel like
I
Lorde
guess
has always
that's true,
been
yeah.
somebody who was upset about the world she had to grow up in.
Mhm.
Whereas I think Billie
Billie
Eilish
Eilish
is
came from nowhere. Yeah,
absolutely depressed.
Yeah, that's true.
Sure.
Yeah.
right.
and her outlandish kind of persona is her young lashing out stuff. So when she tries to act like someone who is in our eyes, normal, it's taken as, well, that's a little risque. And you're like, well, do you want her to be a 14-year-old angry little girl forever?
Forever, right.
Yeah.
You know, like let her grow up, and that's what's going to happen is you're going to see shit. Like and when you bring that up, Rick, I recall being in my office. I remember to the day, because I love, and have always respected everything that Miley Cyrus has done.
Sure.
Oh,
Like,
same.
and when
I agree.
So here's my big fucking problem now is that no one cares. They're like,
well,
oh,
it's also trendy
Miley
to
Cyrus
attack
is fucking-
her from a certain
But
perspective.
what I mean is 8 years ago, Miley Cyrus came out and the Alan Thicke thing happened on the fucking, like 8 years ago.
Yeah.
All this shit was about
Yep.
Miley Cyrus is 19 or 20 and she's twerking on stage and she's wearing barely
Yeah,
anything.
she's 19 or 20.
Now-
You know what the fuck? Go ahead.
But now she's 27, 28 years old, and she's still doing the same shit, but nobody cares because her music has transcended shit. She's covered bands. She has now done serious shit, and now they don't ride her.
Different radar. Different radar.
But when she came out and did that shit, I was like, hold on. So she can do all this, and then who's the one with the ponytail that acts like she's 16 all the time? Used to
Ariana
date.
Grande.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I knew that so
I
fast.
would've
I'm
guessed
mad
that.
I knew that so fast.
that girl could literally take almost all of her clothes off, and she can act in a seductive way while portraying a very young girl, even though in reality she's 24, 25,
Yeah, something
26
like that,
years
right.
old, and no one says a fucking word about it.
Yeah.
And I find that odd.
Well,
I
I'll
find
tell
it
you.
very odd, and they're both incredibly no one's paying attention to the actual
Talent.
vocalist.
Right.
Both of those
They're
girls
actually
have,
talented, sure.
dude,
the shit that
Ariana
sells is not
Grande
the talent.
Fucking
And-
bonkers
Yes.
voice-wise,
Yeah.
dude. And
Absolutely, the both of them are.
they're both incredible performing artists. And nobody wants to happen what happened to Britney Spears. But without Britney Spears,
Can I just tell you something? That would never happen to Miley Cyrus. Miley Cyrus is too goddamn smart. There has not been a Miley
if I was
Cyrus
Miley
scandal.
Cyrus's record
There's
producer,
no
dude, I'd
Miley
be
Cyrus
afraid to
scandal that
fucking
hasn't
say
been
anything
manufactured by Miley Cyrus for the shits and giggles of being famous enough to not have to worry about shit for the rest of her life or
I look at Miley
depend on her
Cyrus-
father's money. That
I look-
fucking girl figured that shit out and dominated that shit in the fucking press and with her music and everything. And that's why
I
she's got
think-
the freedom to be whoever she wants now.
I think we
Genius.
see what Miley Cyrus is another Joan Jett. She's
100%.
she's another what's her name? The lead singer of what the hell is her name? Man?
Pat
Damn it.
Benatar?
No, but she is Pat. I'd say Pat Benatar
Blondie?
too. No, it'll come to me, and I would say that Ariana Grande is arguably
The next Mariah Carey.
yes,
100%.
yes, 100%, 100%, dude. They both have a 35-year-old mindset and a 20-some-odd-year-old person. They have
Which
come
you do
out
not
like
acquire easily.
No, but they had it then. And what bothers me is that everybody got on their shit, like as if they were supposed to control who they were.
Sure.
And it's what
And
sold,
they did. They
and it's
did
what
to an
record
extent.
executives wanted them to do.
100%.
Like, they want that shit. They want.
And I
leave
don't
them
know
alone.
why. Can I just say I don't know why? Because when people are real and they act real, they grow faster, they get bigger, they have a bigger fan base, a more dedicated fan base, a more longer term fucking fan base. So I never understand the commercialism of people in suits and why they think certain things need to be the way that they think they
Mike
should
Pepe
be.
said.
Because
Mike
they're
Pepe
both
said.
women.
Brand
Yeah.
That's
Lord.
why.
Lord was also Randy Marsh in his basement with an auto-tune program.
And also Ariana Grande was she was a Nickelodeon. She was on that Nickelodeon show.
Hell yeah, yeah.
hilarious. They're both. I mean, the whole thing is that they're. I mean, I hate to say it like this, but it's because they're both women, and it's because.
I was just gonna say that.
Sure.
You know, when you look at Timberlake, when Timberlake was 21 years old, nobody gave a shit that women were throwing
Nobody
themselves
gave a
at him.
shit when he
coulda
ripped
took his
off
clothes
Janet
off.
Jackson's
Right,
bra.
right.
They all yelled
Right.
at Janet Jackson. How dare you have nipples?
Not to mention his relationship.
You and your
I mean, to
nipples.
bring it back full circle, his relationship with Britney Spears, who got criticized in that
Yeah,
relationship.
he
Britney Spears
cheated.
did. Justin Timberlake did whatever the fuck he wanted, and Justin Timberlake just came out recently and apologized for his actions,
Hey Rick,
which
I
is a
think
good
we're leaving
thing.
out- I think we're leaving out the most integral male that ever took all the guff for no reason.
Who?
Frederick.
Fred Durst.
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage.
Frederick Durst.
Yeah.
We
He deserved everything he got.
did he?
No, he did not.
He did not.
No, he did not.
I think if anything, Christina caused all that shit, and then Eminem crushed him.
Yeah.
On top of all of it.
Yeah. He also went
Fred
after
Durst
DJ
dated
Lethal.
Christina Aguilera.
No, but there was a rivalry between Eminem and Christina Aguilera
Yeah.
at the time.
Yeah, which
Because
brought
Christina
Fred Durst
Aguilera-
into it.
Christina
I need
Aguilera was
context,
making-
someone else.
Christina Aguilera was making assumptions about Eminem's relationship status live on TV, and Eminem was not happy about this because, you know, who the hell's Christina Aguilera to make assumptions
So he
about Eminem's
blew up
love
the
life?
relationship between him
Him and Kim.
her and Fred Durst.
And that happened, yeah.
Wow, that's petty.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, Christina, Christina, I'm going to tell you something you might not know. Christina Aguilera, in a way, was the end of Limp Bizkit, and let me tell you why. Here's why. Here's why.
Here we go, blaming women.
Here we go.
Again.
No. It's not
I'm
that.
kidding.
At the time,
Christina Aguilera is
no,
not a
it's not a
woman.
woman thing.
She's a
It's not a woman.
she-devil.
It's a pop music versus real music argument that happened at the time. It was a culture war. Okay,
Suck it.
so you had
Suck
Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, the NSYNC, the Backstreet Boys. These were all part of the same world,
The-
right? Then you
the
had
NSYNC.
Korn
The
and Stained and Limp
NSYNC.
Bizkit and Kid Rock, even, believe it or not. I mean, Kid Rock's this side now, but back then it was this side. Okay,
Really?
and you had
The
100%,
Kid
right?
Rock.
So
The Kid Rock.
so Fred Durst, when Limp Bizkit dropped $3 bills, $3 bills was one of the grimiest motherfucking new metal rap rock albums you could ever hear. It was nasty as fuck. And the most violent show I've ever been to in my life, and this is somebody who has fucking been to E-Town Concrete shows, okay, was Limp fucking Bizkit during the $3 bills tour. It was the most violent thing I've ever fucking seen. Okay?
I'm on the delay. I'm watching the delay while
Now.
I'm talking.
Okay? In the late 90s, I believe it was 1999, when that show started, Kurt Loder started that show, and at the beginning of the VMAs, the MTV Video Music Awards, fucking Kurt Loder said, "Hey everybody, Fred is here." He didn't even have to say Limp Bizkit. Fred Durst was so famous, your grandma fucking knew who he was. Okay? By the end of that show, two things happened the same night. Christina Aguilera jumped up on stage and did a song, and then Fred Durst jumped up on stage and did a song with her. Okay? Later that night, Eminem won an award, and as he was walking the stage to pick it up, Fred Durst went to give him a high five, and Fred Durst ignored him. And by the end of that night, Kurt Loder, or whoever the fuck was hosting by the end of the night, said, "Hey everybody, here's a Fred Durst good night. See you later." Right? And he made fun of Fred Durst, and that was the fucking end of Limp Bizkit that night. That was the
God, I
fucking
remember
end. Because
that.
you remember that, right? And they made fun of him so fucking hard because he
Pat
got up on
remembers
stage
that
with
because he
Christina
was the
Aguilera,
opening commercial
and Eminem
before
called
that
him a
fucking came
bitch.
That was like the end of Kurt Loder, wasn't it, too?
Sure,
At the same
absolutely.
time?
Kurt Loder was getting
Don't you
just a little too
fucking dare.
old.
Like,
Don't you dare, Kurt.
ended at
Don't
that.
you fucking dare talk about Kurt Loder like that.
Yep.
Who's Kurt Loder?
Kurt Loder, oh God. And Tabitha Soren. Kurt Loder and
I'm
Tabitha
done.
Soren.
Don't yell at me.
They used to host all the greatest MTV shows there were.
Wait, I have to Google who this is.
Oh,
I don't know who that
God.
is.
So you were full of shit the whole time about the Fred Durst thing. Just so you know.
Okay, wait.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Kurt Loder and Tabitha Soren. They used to do the
Tabitha
MTV.
Soren.
Right. You remember?
And that stupid motherfucker who left Kennedy left MTV
Think
and
of
became a
how weird
hardcore.
it is.
Yes.
Think of how weird it is that most people, not all, but like I would say the majority of people our age that cared that Kurt Cobain died heard it from Kurt Loder.
Yep.
Like they could remember him tearing up as he had to give that news.
100. Yes.
Like remember how like the words were hard for him to get out of his mouth when he did that news report. Like I feel like that's how most people our age heard about Kurt Cobain. It's not how I
Absolutely.
did, but I know that's how most people did.
Because it was called
there were
bec-
about 6 people that mattered in life, right? It was him. It was Matt Pinfield. It was
I interviewed Matt Pinfield once.
Dan. What was Dan's name on Dan?
Who was the guy from Headbangers Ball?
That's Matt Pinfield.
No, there was another guy with black hair. The fuck was his name?
Dude, who was Dan? The guy that did Extreme Sports and all that other shit.
I know what
Dan
you're talking about.
He had the chiseled chin with he had the wavy hair. Dan fucking damn, that was his name.
Ricky Rackman. That's the guy who hosted
Ricky
Headbangers Ball.
Rackman. The dude that was like in his late 40s. But he wasn't. Dan from MTV Sports. Dan Cortez. Yes, Dan Cortez.
That's it. Yes.
Mike PP with the save, bro.
Wow.
Ricky
Dan
Rackman.
Cortez.
What a douche. Ricky Rackman was one of the worst interviewers of all fucking time.
And yeah, then there was Yo MTV Raps.
With Dr. Dre and Ed Lover.
Right. Ed
Not
Lover
the
was
Dr. Dre that you know,
Oh,
a different Dr. Dre.
The good Dr. Dre.
There were
I
two
know
Dr.
Ed
Dre's.
Big
Lover.
figure.
Huh?
I know who that is.
Figure.
Ed Lover.
Yep.
Kristen,
And
did you know that there were two Dr. Dre's?
Two Dr. Dre's.
I had no idea. I have no idea.
Ah,
Yes.
damn it. I'm done. I gotta get off the fucking.
Sorry.
What?
You never see Who's the Man?
Sarah said she
Never saw
loves
Who's
him.
the Man?
Who's the man? Yes.
That
Dude,
was like
Crisscross
fucking
was in
best.
Who's the Man.
Oh,
And Salt and
sorry,
Pepper.
guys.
You gotta
I
watch
know
Who's
Salt
the
and
Man.
Pepper.
Wait,
One of
do you
my
know who
first
Crisscross
fucking
is?
mixtapes, one of the first mixtapes I ever had in my life.
Kristen,
Had-
do you know who Crisscross is?
Oh, I'm sorry.
What the fuck? You don't know Jump,
I missed the bus.
right? Crisscross
no.
will make you jump.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I know that song. I don't
They
know.
were at war with ABC and BBD.
I feel like Rob is really angry at me right now.
We're at war.
Dude, I have a Belle Biv
He's, like,
DeVoe record
throwing
in the other
things
room.
around.
A Belle Biv DeVoe record, which is an offshoot of New Edition, which is where Bobby Brown came from.
Yes, I know those things. I just don't. I can't hear you, Rob. But it feels like it sounds like
He
you're
looks like
really
he's having an emotional
upset.
breakdown.
I just see that you're furiously yelling. I can't hear
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
saying.
I can't hear you.
Oh, shit.
I'm so angry right now. I hit
Yeah.
you. God damn it. You have to watch This Is Pop on fucking Netflix, man. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah.
All right. There's a lot of pop culture stuff that I don't know about.
Da-da,
And around
da-da,
forward.
da-ya-ya-ya, da-da, da-da-da-do.
Is that Jodeci?
Yeah, Mike Peepee's got Boyz II Men up in that shit.
Hell
That's how
yeah, man. Boys to Men, ABC, BBD, the East Coast family.
Never skip the beat.
That's right.
Watch you
Yeah,
watch
that's
your
right.
street, chat like that, honey, friends. You know, if you were
Holy
stick-
shit.
Inside Out is wiggity, 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 whack.
Back in school, we used to dream about this every day.
You see what I'm saying?
No days a day away.
It's like Kid and Play. Let me tell you something, dude. If you want to watch really great interviews, watch Kid in interviews recently. He did interviews with Vlad, who's trash normally, but like,
Or try to do the dance from fucking House Party.
good
and
luck with
pull
that
it off.
jump. Good luck with the Kid and Play kick step. You can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. No fucking way. Not with this spinal cord.
You haven't
Fuck
seen
that.
movies until you've seen. You haven't seen movies till you've seen Class Act. You know what I'm saying?
Like, can I ask Pat and Rob just a simple question? Did you guys?
Theopolis!
Did either of you ever
Uncle
listen?
Theopolis!
I wonder if you guys agree with me. Did either one of you ever listen to Cage?
Yeah, of course. From
Yeah.
Philadelphia?
New York.
Oh, Cage,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the underground hip hop.
Yeah. I was gonna tell Kristen that if she wanted to listen to 2 albums back to back that represented the mindset of a kid in the 90s moving forward in life, because we talked about how foul language used to be portrayed a little received differently from different groups, right? And ideas were perceived differently. And if you want to see like an evolution, listen to Cage, listen to Movies for the Blind, and then listen to Hell's Winter.
Okay.
And I swear, because I know you love music, take the
I
time
do.
to listen to those albums back to back and realize that both of them were also produced by LP.
Okay.
Okay, so I think one of them was 1998 and the other one might have come out in late 2001. So you see the evolution of the mindset of like real, like sociopathic motherfuckers like we were, but we were trying to be good people. And this was like the best voice. I think like when I think of like Nirvana or Nine Inch Nails or Marilyn Manson or any of the people from back in the day that represent that mindset, I think those Cage albums do it best. I think Cage talking about, because the first album, here's the thing about Cage, right? Cage he came from the group that LP came from, and I know that you're a Run the Jewels fan. And
I love Run the Jewels.
that's LP's fucking origins, man, is that fucking Cage, Weathermen, Cardboard
Company
City
Flow.
type of shit, right? Like that's
Company Flow, man.
Right?
Company
So-
Flow shit.
that's like where he comes from, and like you'll hear LP, like old LP on those albums too, because he guests on those albums too, but he also produces them. And there's just something about it that cannot be mimicked by anybody else. And Cage is also interesting because 90s Cage is who people thought Eminem was ripping off in the 90s. And I don't know if you guys remember that shit. I don't know if you remember like Eminem in his early albums.
Anything that you're talking about, actually.
You what?
I don't think I remember anything about this.
Absolutely. There was a fucking whole thing about how Eminem was ripping off Cage. And if you listen to early Eminem albums, he talks about dubbing over Cage tapes. What he's talking about is Cage. Because in the underground, they had a sort of rivalry because they had similar nasal white boy approaches. And they were also like nasty shit about killing people and shit like that.
Really?
And there was a rivalry back then between Cage and Eminem, and then they went in 2 different directions. Cage was also the first artist ever signed to High Times Records.
This man raps.
Yes.
Cage.
You know a lot about Cage.
Yeah, I love
He
Cage.
looks like a very
Is
nice.
this like proximity knowledge from
suburban-
Eminem?
He looks like an emo kid is what Cage looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he
looks
also
like
he
should
also
be
does
singing in
music with
Fallout.
the lead singer from Glassjaw.
Oh, I love Glassjaw.
Okay, so Cage is your shit. You have to listen to
Okay.
listen to
Cage
Movies
is
for the
now-
Blind.
Cage is now your shit.
Listen to Movies for the Blind. Think about when it was recorded and by whom and what it could have meant, and then move on to Hell's Winter.
Yes,
Hell's
by
Winter.
whom?
I'm telling you, you are going to listen. It's some of the best fucking hip hop music ever recorded, but it also captures that fucked up 90s kids, like that movie Kids fucking mindset
yes.
of just being like completely fucked. Like Vice came out with a fucking series recently called The Dark Side of the 90s, and I was like, what dark side? The whole fucking thing was a dark side. Like there was no that's what made it great. It was all fucked up, you know what I mean? But it also led to people thinking in a certain way. So
That's so weird because like
I
now
feel
like
the 80s were more fucked up.
the
the
what?
80s.
I felt like the 80s were darker and then
Way
90s
fucking
were
darker.
brighter and shit.
100% in a lot of ways, sure.
Everything about the 90s was
But the
just like,
90s was an adjustment trying to get out of the 80s, and culturally
Exactly.
those growing pains were fucking weird.
yeah.
I think the 90s are just like I don't know. I think of it now. I'm like I miss the 90s.
Sure,
It
of
was a
course.
fun time. But
But
I was
but
also
people-
like, you know,
People also
hate
talk about the
90s.
80s as if like it was all these bright
Ugh.
colors and all these like
Ugh.
weird like
8, 9.
iridescent
Right, like-
triangles everywhere, and it's like, you know, it was actually a lot of
Sorry,
brown wood
Rob.
paneling.
8,
Yeah.
9.
I was born in '92, so I
God
needed to
damn
like. Sorry, Rob. Don't get
Miss
mad.
the 90s. Get the fuck out of here.
8 or 9.
Yeah, it was more like early.
Shit.
Sorry.
Hey, I'm the oldest one here, Rob, so you can fuck yourself, fetus.
Yeah, you look
Fetus.
just like it. You look like it.
1979, baby. That's how long ago. It's like the fucking 90s, 40s.
Well, you guys got to experience the '90s. A lot. I feel like now. I don't know. Have you
Describe,
guys noticed?
describe
Sorry.
experiencing.
It's weird. It's weird to say that, though, man, because let me tell you something. 1991 to 1999 are so different. And the
Well,
world,
yeah.
holy shit, dude. Even, like, culturally, it was so... Imagine going from grunge to rap rock in only 5 years. I mean...
Yeah, you guys did have
Yes.
new metal. That's
Yes,
weird
I
to
can
me.
imagine that.
But here's the thing, man. Here's the
I
thing.
can imagine the Birch Hill every Thursday and Friday
Right,
night
but here's
at
the thing. Like, we can define